So, so we're just gonna get right into it. We're just gonna get right into it, and we're just gonna get it right into it and start with the content.
We have the latest from federal court in the Sean Combs criminal case. Status of jury selection, what Diddy's going to be wearing, violation of a gag order, rejecting a plea offer. It's time to bring in our law and crime reporter who is in the courtroom to give us the very latest. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Okay, so before we jump into the case, I want to tell you about something else real quick. We have this brand new podcast that we just dropped on Wondery for a recap. It's a little Diddy Combs court hearing recap that just happened today. And remember, this is an interesting moment. Remember, the juror questionnaires have already been submitted to a number of prospective jurors. We believe the official jury selection process is going to begin next week, May 5th. And let's not forget what we're talking about here. This is Sean Combs' criminal case. He faces 5 sex crimes-related charges: sex trafficking, racketeering conspiracy, transportation to engage in prostitution, that Combs allegedly ran this criminal enterprise, that he engaged in a pattern of years-long abuse against women, forcing them into sexual episodes, bringing in sex workers, all of those allegations. And I will tell you, I said it before, I say it again, I think that this is incredible that this is happening so soon. It is remarkable that we are seeing a federal trial, a case going to trial within less than a year of when he was arrested. But by all accounts, the defense has wanted this to go forward. They want this trial to move forward.
Yeah, that's quite that's unheard of actually. Yeah, because these type of trials don't usually start until I want to say until way later. Like it usually start. I feel like it usually at least take at least at minimum it takes at least a year for everything to fall in place. But for this Diddy case, everything kind of went
It
pretty
seems
quick.
by all accounts they believe they can get an acquittal here. We shall see. But right now, we want to do a recap of what happened in court today as this trial is about to begin. So straight from the courtroom, actually outside of the federal courthouse right now in downtown New York, we have with us once again Law Crimes reporter Elizabeth Milner. Elizabeth, thank you so much for coming here on Sidebar. Really appreciate it. So I'm going to start right from how we always start our recaps. How did Sean Combs look? How did he appear? And who was there for him on his side?
Oh yeah, Jesse. It seems like the weight is kind of now on Diddy's shoulders as he's set to start trial technically on Monday with jury selection and obviously with the following week being opening statements. But when he walked into the courtroom today, he did what he usually does. He kind of does an eye over the entire gallery, sees who's in there, makes eye contact with a lot of us, which I thought was a little surprising, especially us being members of the press. He kind of looked at each and every one of us. There was an anchor there with Fox 5 and who I think he had a previous professional relationship with, kind of looked and waved at her. So, you know, he's seeing familiar faces inside the courtroom. Now, as far as those who were there to support him, that was a little different than it's been in past hearings. So when we first started covering those hearings and when I was first going into those courthouse for these pretrial hearings,
That that's a good thing, right?
there was
That's a good thing, right? Like for Diddy to be in good spirits, like I wouldn't that's a good thing. That means that he's confident about his defense, and he's confident that he will get his day in trial, and he will be found innocent. So it sounds like a confident man to me. You know, seeing familiar faces, smiling at people, you know, saying hi to people, man. Like he seems like he's not sweating it, man. Like I think he's ready.
was in the gallery, probably with the exception of his 2-year-old daughter, whose name is Love. But for the most part, we saw his daughters in there, we saw his sons in there, we saw his mother in there. But this time around, and maybe it was just because this is another pretrial hearing, they're in it for another 2 months when it comes to actual trial, but none of his family was there today. And I think, not sure if he's actually aware that they weren't going to be coming today, but I think maybe there was a little disappointment there, because I think he kind of lights up when he sees his sons in the courtroom, especially when he sees his mother in the courtroom. But this time was a little different. The only person who was really there on...
So should we speculate? Should we look into this further? Like, his mom didn't come, or his kids, like, what's up with that? They've been coming so far. If you've been keeping up with this trial and on the developments and everything, everybody's been pretty supportive. Like, they've been showing up for him on phone calls, been calling them, and there was even speculation that he told his family what to post to, get the trial, the jury pool a little tainted. If you really want to speculate, if you really want to investigate and kind of like poke at every detail of this case.
Side today, as outside of his lawyers, was really just one of his associates, I believe it is. And this is a man who we had previously talked about, Jesse. He was the one wearing the pre-puff sweatshirt inside that courtroom, which he won't be allowed to do once trial actually begins. But he was wearing it again today. And apparently, because TMZ caught him outside of the courthouse, ran up to him, and he was like, they're coming out with a line of this. So look out for that clothing line to begin. But that was really the only person on his side today. And it was pretty surprising, but I'm sure once trial actually begins, once opening statements begins, we will probably see the whole entire family there. But nope, it seems like it kept dwindling and dwindling each and every single hearing.
Little inside baseball, by the way, when we do these Diddy hearing recaps, we are scrambling. We're trying to get as much information as possible out to you as quickly as possible. This is kind of like breaking news. So I'm working through lunch, I'm working through snacks, but I kind of want to eat healthy. It's important to me. But I'll tell you what, shopping for healthy food is not easy. It's tough. The house, if you're okay, I want to talk about his appearance, though, right? Last time we spoke, you say he was quite gray. I imagine he looks the same, but there's been a lot of discussion, actually a ruling from the judge regarding what Sean Combs can wear in court. So talk to us about what that ruling was, what he can wear, and how was he dressed? How did he look?
Well, going back to your first point about him being gray, that's still there. He still has a lot of gray hair. And, I hate to make this comparison, but he does have kind of similar hair to Brian Steele at this point. It's very light colored. Not sure if he's dyed it beforehand, but you can see, and you can just kind of by his demeanor, that he's kind of...
What can we speculate from him being gray? Is it he doesn't have Just for Men and the gel like he did at home, and getting his little weekly dye to make himself look like younger? Or should we say him having grays is just him stressed and he's worried about the case? I don't know. What can we say? What can we speculate?
Aged since he's been behind bars, and that's apparent. He's been behind bars, a place that he probably never thought he would be for a long time or ever in his entire life, but he's been there for a significant amount of time. But he came in as usual with his khaki jumpsuit, the MDC edition of that. But as far as what he'll be wearing at trial, that'll be completely different. So what the judge ruled about in trial is that Diddy is allowed 5 button-up shirts. He's allowed 5 sweaters, which I thought was interesting because I would think that he'd be allowed to wear suits. But from the judge's order, it seemed like it's really just button-up shirts, sweaters, up to 5 pairs of pants. I think it's up to 5 pairs of socks, and then 2 pairs of shoes.
Yo, shall we speculate on that? Like, why is the government only allowing him to wear sweaters and, certain pieces of clothing? Like, I find that a little bit interesting, because honestly, he hasn't been found guilty. So would he still have, like, does he technically not still have his rights that he can wear whatever he wants? Or I don't know, man. That's interesting to think. Like, I guess since he's in jail, he no longer have his rights, and they are instructing him what time to go to bed, what time to get up, what time to eat, and what time to go to court and whatnot. So I guess him going and being told that he can only have 5 articles of clothing, and these are the articles. Like, sheesh, man, that's tough.
Because he is still a detainee, those shoes cannot come with laces. So I'm sure that Diddy will kind of be pulling the ranks when it comes to fashion, especially once his trial begins, probably with button-up shirts and sweaters, probably more than my rent. But as far as the judge's order, it looks like that'll be kind of the standard issue from how we'll see Diddy once trial begins.
That's funny. Let me ask you this, Elizabeth. A lot of talk about jury selection. I keep getting asked the question, how on earth can you possibly get a jury in this case? People that don't know Sean Combs, I don't think that's what they're looking for. I think they expect people to know who he is. I think they expect people to know about the news of his arrest and maybe the charges that he faces. The question will become, can you find jurors who are impartial, who can agree and promise that they will only look at the facts and the law presented in that courtroom to make their decision? Easier said than done. What is the status of jury selection? And by that, I mean this week was an important week. Talk to us about what we've learned so far about the jury selection process and what we can expect. What happened today in court? What was the discussion about jury selection moving forward?
Well, what we can expect is that jury selection is planning to start on schedule on Monday. That's going to be May 5th, beginning. The judge wants the parties to be in at 8 o'clock in the morning. Now, mind you, the federal courthouse doesn't open until 8 o'clock in the morning. Now, as far as jury selection goes, I think the biggest takeaway for me is that both sides expect to have all of this done in the matter of 3 days. Now, given just how high profile this trial is, I was kind of stunned that they seem very confident that they will be able to seat a jury in that amount of time, given just that everyone knows who Sean Diddy Combs is. But again, both sides seem confident that they'll be able to handle it. The judge was a little worried about the process probably taking longer than he intended, and I'll talk about that in just a second. But as far as jury selection goes, the process seems pretty clear-cut. They plan on questioning about 50 jurors a day. So what happens is when we're up in the courtroom, we're normally in like 26A, 26B, so it's all the way at the top of the federal courthouse. And what the judge is proposing is that these jurors will be brought in. Again, it's planning to be about 50 a day. They'll bring them up to 26A, and then that's where the questionnaires will kind of start. Now, as far as 26B, they plan on utilizing both of those courtrooms, which are pretty large courtrooms, so it can easily fit about 50 prospective jurors. But they plan on using 26B to kind of ask about those tougher questions. That's going to be the questions about the medical history, previous abuse, just those really tough questions. And their goal is to have to keep around 40 jurors that aren't excused for cause. So they plan on kind of doing this pretty quickly. And the government's response was they wanted kind of slightly more than about 40 jurors, and they want 2 attorneys to be brought in from each side, and the judge said yes. And that when I say each side, going into those sequestered areas when, again, those tough questions are going to be asked, which the defense is expecting for people to be very candid when it comes to answering these types of questions, which can be pretty hard, right? Like, think about it. Someone's asking you about your medical history. Someone's asking you about previous physical, sexual abuse, that type of thing, and you're expected to kind of tell this essentially to a stranger. But again, you know, on both sides, I understand kind of the reasoning for it. They won't just want to make sure that everything is very clear cut and they have the right jurors to be seated in that jury box. Now, the defense did kind of have a little bit of an objection when it came to the sequestration and the sequestered questions, I should say. And that was just that the defense wants Diddy to be inside there. But the problem comes with Diddy being there is that these are in 2 different courtrooms. He is still a detainee. So they were talking about how the marshals would kind of take him back and forth, which could be a security risk. It could be just a terrible risk for the officials to have that even going on. And so they kind of came to a solution, is that Diddy will be shown a feed. He'll be able to kind of hear those personal questions that are being asked during the sequestration, and that's kind of the resolution that both sides ended up agreeing to. So Diddy will stay in the main courtroom. There won't be that back and forth. As far as him going to another courtroom and marshals have to kind of make sure everything's squared away, that won't be happening in this case. But again, it all plans to start on Monday.
Yo, this Diddy trial, bro, this is the most like intricate trial. Like I've never heard them having to split up jurors to ask, you know, certain questions that and stuff. Like this is interesting, like, because like I said, it's hard, and like, you know, everybody has has been immersed in what's been going on with Diddy, and from like young to old. Because for Diddy, like Diddy is a very known celebrity, so everybody who's anybody, I would guess, knows who's Diddy. You feel me? So for them to have a separate courtroom where they'll be asking very intricate, detailed questions, personal questions to people in a very confidential manner, so they are able to answer. But honestly, it's going to be tough regardless how they scrutinize these jurors and try to get something out of them, because the jurors are, they already come with their pre-existing notion. Everybody, there's going to be people who feel the way they feel about Diddy. There's going to be people that feel that, this is okay. Get out of his bedroom. People are going to feel everywhere. So it's going to be very interesting to see who is actually left, how many people is actually left after this whole interrogation of the jurors. Like, because it's literally going to seem like an interrogation of the jurors, the way they're going to be dividing them and kind of put them in separate rooms and private rooms. Like, bro, it's going to be interesting. Like, and we here for it, bro. Definitely we here for it.
5th, and again, it's plans on starting bright and early. Now, whether or not they'll actually seat the entire jury in 3 days, that's a little wait and see, but I guess we'll see come Monday what it's looking like and how successful the process really is.
And they,
bro, they try to pick people in 3 days is going to be crazy.
My understanding also was in court today, his attorney, Mark Agnifilo, had raised a concern about what happens if jurors saw something, did something, said something between when they filled out the questionnaire and when they're being questioned, right? I mean, I guess talk to me what we learned about that, but also, do we have any idea what the final questions were in this questionnaire?
So
I think they do have
the last question. No, unfortunately, I don't know what's in that final version of the questionnaire, but I do have some of the proposed questions that the defense team kind of proposed to. It was interesting questions. What's your age? What's your sex? Your gender identity? Do you have children? Are you currently working? What's the highest level of education that you have had? One thing I thought was interesting is, do you use any social media platforms? If so, which ones? How do you get your news? What, if any, newspapers, magazines, websites, online news services or publications do you read? Do you listen to any podcasts? So possibly if you're listening to Sidebar, you might not be able to be on this jury or anything like that. As far as, they asked what type of music.
And I agree. Just being able to just like asking these people how do they receive their news is major. Asking these people what is their favorite news network is major. Asking these people how do they feel about certain topics is major. Asking these people what time or what year were they born is important. Like, I feel like there's so many big questions and very important questions that needs to be asked that, bro, once they ask them, are they going to have enough jurors?
Like, how often do you listen to music? Which I'm just like...
Yo, how often you listen to music is big. Yo, because, I ain't going to lie. Diddy ain't make too many amazing hits. But, bro, like, Diddy had some nice music. And Diddy has some nice music, and he's been in the music industry for a minute, bro.
Is that necessarily relevant? And then even on the government side, they had questions such as, you may hear evidence in this case related to sexual assault, including rape. Do you have any feelings, beliefs, or experiences relating to that aspect of the case that could affect your ability to be fair?
Oh, nah, man.
In this case,
nah.
You may hear evidence in this case.
Yo,
son,
thanks for the follow. Thanks for the follow, bro.
Experiences relating to prostitution and the law enforcement around prostitution that could affect your ability to be a fair and partial juror in this case. So that was just kind of a glimpse of what jurors can expect to be asked during this questionnaire. Now, as far as just the going back to your first question, actually, there was just that proposed question that we can say is going to be on that
what the
now
freak,
is,
bro,
the
man,
defense
yo,
wanted to propose a
damn,
question
bro,
on after
crazy
the
crazy
potential
story,
jurors fill out
bro,
their questionnaire.
crazy crazy story, bro. Yo, that was a crazy story, bro. Yo, thanks for bro, welcome to the gang, bro. This is the Crazy Gang squad, bro. Welcome to the Crazy Gang family, bro. Yo, I hope you enjoyed the stream, bro. We just chatting today, bro. We just chatting. We're trying to see what's going on with the Diddy case. I got stuff from the Titanic and I rap. Okay. Yo, definitely, bro. You rap, bro. Yo, we'll definitely look into your shit, bro. Drop your handle, bro. Drop your handle, bro. Like, you got real stuff from the Titanic? Like, bro, how the heck you get real shit from the Titanic, bro? The stuff that's worth millions? What the fuck? Yo, that's crazy, bro. How you got them shits, bro?
News media, any documentaries, anything just relating to a news medium and whether or not they saw it in between them filling out the questionnaire to Monday morning when they go to jury selection. So essentially meaning if they filled out the questionnaire on Friday, but on a Sunday they watched, the fall of Diddy on docuseries, or they watched the prime crime episode of Diddy and, that type of sort. And so Mark Agnifilo just kind of wanted to cross his T's and dot his I's as far as that question goes, because it seems like, they're being very cognizant of the fact that, these potential jurors could already have, certain views in their head based off what they've seen in the news media, what they've seen or heard about in podcasts or read about in a news article, that type of sort. So it seems like that was kind of the question that we know for sure will definitely be on that questionnaire, or that will be asked.
Yo, bro, yeah, definitely, bro. Hey, I'll search that bit, bro. I'll search how much Titanic artifacts are worth.
There was a discussion.
Hey, yeah, bro. Send some
not
videos, bro.
sidebars,
Yo,
Jesse,
put it
not
in
our
the
show,
chat, bro.
but actual sidebars, when there's that break in the court and the attorneys go up to the judge to have a private conversation about an issue. What was the discussion about that? And by the way, correct me if I'm wrong, which is so good that you're our eyes and our ears, because we don't know what the actual reporting indicates, so you will set us straight for it. Was there also a discussion regarding the sidebars that had something to do with Ghislaine Maxwell? Talk to us about this.
So
Hold on, we're gonna check. We'll check it out after this video, bro.
It's going to be that sequestered questioning type of thing, and just whether or not the defendant should be transported back and forth in between these courtrooms. Because despite what people may think about Sean Diddy Combs, is that he does have a right to a fair trial, and that's what the defense was pretty much hammering about, is the sense that they don't think it's fair that Diddy wouldn't be a part of the sequestered questioning process, but he is, and he came up with that solution, as we had mentioned. Now, as it comes to these sidebars, that was also about, the jury selection process. So pretty much when it comes to, again, those medical issues, those really tough personal questions about previous abuse and other sensitive topics, that'll be handled in private, as we know. And then what would happen to kind of ease the process and make it go a little faster is that pretty much they would go into a sidebar. They would listen to just what the arguments are just from the judge, those two representatives from each side, and this potential juror. They could talk about what the issues are that they may have about being selected on the jury and that type of sort. And then what the judge came up with, the solution is, or really it was kind of the government's proposal here, but what they came up with is that they'll seal it in the transcript. So there are going to be transcripts of this trial.
That's crazy, bro. Like,
about,
on this case, bro, Diddy, you want to get rid of everybody that has any issue. You want to get rid of people women that's been cheated on. You want to get rid of women that's been beaten on. Bro, you want to get rid of women that have been like did any wrong by any person, bro. Yo, you want to get rid of anybody that's been done by any person, bro, because those are your You're like your worst people to have on trial, bro. You know, those are like your worst people to have on trial, bro.
History, all that sensitive stuff, that'll be sealed in the transcript. And then they'll just kind of resume questioning, which again, the judge kind of made this a point too, talking about, okay, well, if we're going to continue to do sidebars each and every single time that a prospective juror has to talk about a sensitive topic, that could take up a lot of time. But again, the defense and the government both seem pretty confident that they'll still be able to kind of get it going at a quick pace. This isn't unusual to do in these types of high profile cases. So that was pretty much just the topics about, you know, Ghislaine Maxwell, as well as the other topics about the sidebars that aren't presented by Jesse Weber.
Was there
Hey, I'm okay. I didn't get my kids.
You didn't get your kids?
expanding the team of lawyers?
There definitely was. And I know, Jesse, we had been talking about this for a while. We thought it was possibly that expansion going to be Mark Garagos added to the team. There was an exclusive reporting. The rumors were spreading that he would be there, which is funny enough because his daughter is also on the defense team. She works with Mark Agnifilo and has been representing Sean Diddy Combs since the beginning, since his arrest and since his indictment. But it was interesting that the defense kind of pointed out that they will be adding 2 defense attorneys. We only thought initially it was 1. But one thing that stood out to me when Mark Agnifilo was talking about this was he said that these defense attorneys are in the courtroom right now. I didn't see Mark Garagos in that courtroom, but what I did see is 2 defense attorneys that have been there when Brian Steele came on board. And those 2 defense attorneys were Nicole Westmoreland, who we talked about in that last sidebar episode that I did with you. She had previously represented a YSL defendant. Now, this is me speculating. Let me just kind of put the red tape on that right there, where this is me speculating, but these were the names that kind of stood out to me as possibly who could be added to the defense team, especially knowing that they have that prior relationship with Brian Steele, who we know is added onto the Diddy defense team just a couple weeks ago. So me guessing, I think it's Nicole Westmoreland, who again,
and Brian Steele being added to this defense team, bro, is major, bro. Brian Steele being added to Diddy's defense team is major for him, bro. Brian Steele just fresh off of the freaking YSL Young Thug case, bro. So you know Brian Steele is freaking. He still got the juices pumping. Brian Steele is still pumped and ready to go back out, bro. Like, so I think this is a major win for Diddy getting Brian Steele on his team.
Defendant. And then I also think it might possibly be Xavier Donaldson. Now, he's a New York-based attorney. He has been in the courtroom a couple of times, at least for the maybe last 4 or 5 hearings that I've been to. He's been in the gallery, kind of taking notes, kind of watching what was going on, but always sitting on the defense's side, kind of making nice with the defense attorneys there. So I think it might possibly be those 2 attorneys added to the list. But again, with Mark Agnifilo saying that these 2 lawyers are in the courtroom, there were other lawyers in there as well, too. So I might just be completely wrong. But I will say for certain, let me not say for certain, but I don't think it's going to be Mark Garagos.
All right. We'll see. You know, it's interesting when we're talking about this because you had talked about our previous sidebar about the legal team. A big.
Let's see what this guy was trying to get us to watch, man. Oh, sheesh. Oh, dude, that's dope. Oh, that's dope. God, that's dope, bro. For sure,
issue
that's
that
dope.
came up last time. A lot of people talking about it. We covered on Sidebar. There's been a lot of news articles about it. Was whether or not Sean Combs had rejected a plea deal from the government. And I understand that there was a further discussion about that today, which, by the way, is really interesting because I've said it from the beginning. I never saw him.
So, yo, this is wild because I never thought Diddy would be getting a plea deal. I never thought Diddy would be getting a plea deal. I never thought Diddy would be getting a plea deal for the simple fact that, bro, they're portraying him to be this big old trafficking, sex, like, bro, just the most craziest thing ever. So like, I never expected him to get a plea deal. To hear that he had received a plea deal package and he declined it, you got to know that shit wasn't fucking in his favor. And two, you got to know he must feel very confident in his defense. He must feel confident in his defense, and yo, he's ready to take this shit to court, bro. And who could blame him, bro? Like, hey, I didn't see it coming, but if he declined it, he must have good reason to.
A deal. The reason that he wanted to go to trial so quickly is because he doesn't want to sit behind bars any longer. It seems to me he believes he can be acquitted, take this to trial. If he made bail, he probably would have pushed this off as far as possible. He probably wouldn't have wanted to go to trial immediately, but because he's sitting behind bars, he's locked up at the MDC, the Metropolitan Detention Center, it seems he wanted to go to trial as soon as possible. So, talk to us, but then on the other side, you have to think about mounting evidence that they might have against him, what he's potentially facing, decades in prison, life in prison, would he take a plea? What was the discussion today regarding a possible plea offer?
The judge didn't go into not really the judge, the government didn't go into too many details about the extent of the plea offer, but one thing that they had said was pretty much that under the plea offer, he would be facing less time than he's facing if he would have gone to trial. So when the allocution portion came, Diddy stood up.
Okay, so in the plea agreement, he would have received less time than he's receiving now. Okay, all right, boom. Let's say Diddy is receiving let me see, the sex trafficking and everything like that, bro. Let's say Diddy is gonna be out in like, let's say 30 years. Diddy was gonna receive 30 years. If in the plea package they offered him 25 years in jail with the chance of parole, would you take it? Hell no, fuck it. What's 5 years, bro? Let's take that shit to court. Let's ride that bitch.
The judge kind of read him everything that he had needed to read to him, just about whether or not he was of sound mind, whether or not he had taken drugs or alcohol in the last 24 hours, which Diddy did say no about. But as far as the plea offer that came
as
up
we
in the last
expected
hearing,
him
where the
to say no
said
about,
he did offer him a deal or an offer, I should say. And that he rejected it, and now it's official, and he said it to the court as well too. You know, he stood up, he said that he consulted with this about his attorneys, and it seems like they're planning, or not even seems like they're rolling the dice by going to trial because, again, and Jesse, we've been talking about this, just how confident the defense appears that, you know, they could get off on these charges. They could be acquitted, or possibly, you know, who knows what could happen, just because, again, you are rolling the dice. This really does feel like just kind of like, you know, just kind of like a gambling a little bit with Diddy's life in a sense, just because, you know, if you're offered maybe X amount of time versus this huge amount of time, which could be, you know, years and decades behind bars, you would think possibly, you know.
And this could be just me. I don't know, man. This could be just me. I might watch too much SVU, Special Victims. But if the government had a solid case on Diddy, would they be offering him a plea deal? Would they be offering Diddy a plea deal if the government had a pretty solid lockdown case on Diddy? Would they be offering him a plea deal? I don't know, bro. I don't know.
Federal government building a case against you, maybe you would go for the lesser offer, but again, that would be having.
Of course, that makes sense. You would go for the lesser offer, but then that'll be two things. One, the lesser offer might not be that great of an offer. And two, taking the plea deal, you ultimately have to admit to what they're alleging or accusing you of. I don't know. Maybe did, like I said, he feels like he ain't do nothing wrong. I don't know. But taking a plea deal, you technically do have to, admit to it. As what you've seen happen in the YSL case. So, hey,
admit that he did something wrong, and the defense has always maintained that he is innocent. He has done nothing wrong.
That's just repeated that.
Wow. These are just ex-girlfriends that are mad, like just all these types of things that the defense is arguing. But again, today, and it made it official that Diddy rejected the plea offer, and he will be going on trial for the charges that he's facing right now, which again could have him in prison, not even detention, for years.
I tell you this, even though that happened, it's not outside the realm of possibility that he could end up taking a plea. If he, how many times have we covered cases before? We're about to go to the start of trial, like, the opening of jury selection, the beginning of opening statements, the defendant takes a plea, or some evidence is presented during the course of the case, and they say, you know what? Let's not go to trial. Let's stop this trial right now. I want to enter a guilty plea.
And that is true. That is true. Like, bro, if you got in one plea, you potentially may get another one. Like, bro, honestly, like, you never know. Shit might happen. Evidence might show up. You might end up having an opportunity for another plea.
If a really bad piece of evidence comes in, or they don't feel that their arguments against it were effective, it's not outside the realm of possibility. So I just want to keep that in mind as this progresses. Now, gag order. There's been a gag order in this case. Was there discussion today about a violation of the gag order?
Well, there was a little bit, and it was brought up towards the end of court. So pretty much it was a defense argument that was made, and it had to pertain to victim one, who we believe to be Cassandra Ventura. But what was interesting,
of course, it's Cassie Ventura,
about this argument is that the defense was talking about Lisa Bloom. And Lisa Bloom, who we all know to be Gloria Allred's daughter, she has represented other accusers of Sean Diddy Combs, including Dawn Richard, who worked with Danity Kane. She was a bandmate there and then went on to do Dirty Money, who was Diddy's group as well, too. And so pretty much the defense was just disturbed, and this was a word that they had used. They called it disturbing that she was going on and doing a documentary, the BBC documentary about Diddy's life. Pretty much they were saying that it could violate rules of professional conduct, and the judge said that, he seemed to be taking this kind of matter seriously. Now, I will just kind of preface it and say it. I haven't seen the documentary, but it's not out of the
hold on.
It's not out of the norm that she even went on this
Did
documentary.
Did dude just walk behind her with
gone on another documentary that they had used. They
like some type of like
that she was going on and doing
like I only seen that in
the BBC documentary about Diddy's life. Pretty much they were saying
in the country, bro. That nigga just he's carrying stuff on a stick on his neck.
And the judge said that he seemed to be taking this kind of matter
seriously. Oh shit!
Just kind of.
This got to be in New York, bro. Got to be in New York, bro. Got to.
Preface it and say it. I haven't seen the documentary, but it's not out of the realm, or it's not out of the norm that she even went on this documentary as well, too, because she had previously gone on another documentary and kind of talked about her client's accusations against Diddy as well, too. So I was surprised that they brought up this particular documentary. Again, I don't know the extent of what she had said, but the defense seemed very annoyed in a way, and annoyed by the fact that she had gone onto this documentary and just kind of was talking about it, and they were just worried about how prejudicial her comments were that she had made on this documentary were against the defense's client, that being Diddy. And so the judge, again, seemed to be taking that matter pretty seriously and just pretty much said that, everyone, the attorneys, the witnesses' attorneys, the accusers' attorneys, they all have to adhere to these professional rules. They all have to adhere to this professional conduct. And if this continues and if more things are said that get onto the judge's radar, pretty much Judge Submaranian said that he'll take appropriate action if this type of conduct does continue. So we'll see what happens with that, but it seems like the judge was pretty, like, no nonsense about this. He doesn't want anything crazy to be happening when it comes to this case, so he'll take it up if, he needs to.
Of course, there's a lot at stake here, but I've always wondered whether or not Dawn Richard would actually testify in this case, because we know that she sued Sean Combs, and remember what the indictment says. One of the things one of the new indictments says is there is a forced labor allegation. It's a predicate crime for the racketeering conspiracy. And I'm going to read it directly from the indictment. Combs, along with members and associates of the enterprise, also maintained control over certain employees of the Combs business, whom he forced to work long hours with little sleep through use of, among other things.
Damn, come on now. Come on now.
Force, psychological harm, financial harm, reputational harm, and or threats of the same. In doing so, Combs, assisted by members and associates of the enterprise, caused these employees to believe they would be harmed, including by losing their jobs if they did not comply with his demands. With respect to one employee, Combs used physical force, psychological harm, financial harm, reputational harm, and or threats of the same to cause the employee to engage in sex acts with Combs. Now, I go back to her complaint that was filed in September of 2024. It reads, throughout the productions of Making the Bands 3 and 4, Mr. Combs deprived Miss Richard and her Danity Kane bandmates of basic needs such as adequate food and sleep. When Miss Richard or her Danity Kane bandmates requested meals or rest, Mr. Combs refused and chastised them with derogatory comments like, "You bleeps don't want this," or "You're all not hungry enough, and I'm paying you bleeps to work." Now, just to be clear, Elizabeth, there is no indication other than that Dawn Richard's going to be a part of this criminal case, right?
Yeah, no indication other than that, and it's.
But that's a whole nother thing. I feel like that's workplace conduct, or that's some type of workplace. I don't. What?
Interesting that you brought that indictment up as well too, Jesse, because in my mind I was always thinking it was just one of his general employees, not thinking in my mind that it possibly could be talking about one of his musical artists or one of his recording artists. And there have always been rumors that have also played out in civil lawsuits just about Diddy's treatment of the people that he manages, the artists that he takes under his wing, and then that was all laid out in various different lawsuits. So it's interesting that you bring that up. But also when it comes to Dawn Richard specifically, there was no indication that she'd actually be a witness or a victim in this case, an alleged victim in this case, because remember, alleged victim 1 through 3 are they being the defense has said and painted it out to be that these were just sex girlfriends. Then you have alleged victim number 4, who again, according to the indictment, worked under Diddy, and then you have the talks about the alleged victim 5 as well too, none of which were brought up in court today, but it's possible that she could testify. I mean, she worked very closely with Diddy for a number of years. Again, she went from Danity Kane to Dirty Money, which was a band where she worked directly with Diddy. She said, according to her civil lawsuit, that she had witnessed Diddy being physically abusive to Cassandra Ventura, and so there are all these things that are adding up that it wouldn't be surprising.
Okay, Diddy was being physically abusive to Ventura. Okay. So fucking charge this nigga with fucking domestic violence and send this nigga on his fucking merry way. Like, what the fuck?
That she would testify. I would expect her to testify, so we'll see what happens. But again, as far as the defense and the government's arguments, they haven't made it very clear that it would be her specifically as one of the alleged victims, but it's possible she could just be a witness for the government, possibly.
Elizabeth, so much of this case we don't know about. We don't know, so much has been redacted, so much has been blocked out. There's only being identified right now as victims 1 through 5. We know that victim 1, who we believe to be Cassandra Ventura, indicated that she will testify using her real name, not a pseudonym, not like Jane Doe. There's another victim who just came out this week saying the same thing, right?
There was, and that was put in the filing today. Kind of went under my radar for just a second till I was kind of printing out all the documents I needed for court today. But alleged victim number 3, and again, the alleged victims in this case weren't brought up in court today, but alleged victim 3 is somebody that both sides have talked about previously. Now, the defense in a previous hearing said that victim 3 kind of felt meh about testifying against Diddy, because again, this will be a government witness. But when defense spoke with alleged victim 3's counsel, the words that were used were meh, and that's about how she feels about testifying and getting her name out there. And so pretty much the defense said, you know, this person has allegedly gone on other podcasts, has already talked about her experience with Diddy and that sort. So, you know, of course, we don't know exactly who that person is or anything like that. And obviously, if we do know who that person is, we're not going to name who that person is until that person gets up on that stand, puts up their right hand, swears on that Bible, and is ready to testify. But it does look like, according to the government's filing, because that was the government who made this order, talking about alleged victim 3 is fine using her name, because we do know it is a she, but whoever this woman is, she will be using her real name.
Yeah, so it's definitely going to be interesting, to say the least. And I mean, we're here, May 5th. This is the date that we have been waiting for. This is going to be a very interesting trial. There are no cameras in that courtroom, but we have Elizabeth Milner, who's going to be there. Our plan, as much as possible, to be reporting about what she sees, what she hears. We're planning on having transcripts as well from court testimony. We are going to do our best to try to cover this case in full transparency as much as we possibly can for you, because this is a very important case. A lot at stake, a lot of different issues, and I know there's a tremendous public interest in it as well. Elizabeth Milner, fantastic reporting. Thank you so much for coming here on Sidebar. Appreciate it as always.
Thank you so much, Jesse. Love to be on.
And that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you should get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. Speak to you next time.
Yo, man. And then, like, bro, so with the trial being set to start on Monday, tomorrow, this is everything that they are thinking about doing and with the trial and then everything that has going on, bro. Honestly, bro, it's gonna be an interesting trial. Bro. This vetting of jurors is going to be the most interesting one of them all, because this is gonna be an unorthodox way of doing it, but I feel like, bro, Diddy is paying a lot of money to these attorneys to do their jobs, and I think they got a tall hill to climb. But I feel like if they hit the important, like, and the most important thing is vetting the jurors, if they vet them properly, I feel like that'll take this trial a long way, and it'll be actually a compelling statement to keep Diddy in jail. But
from a brand new potential,
here's what they also are saying, that Diddy's team is trying to use mental health. They're trying to use mental health as a defense. Listen to this.
Health defense to propose questions to potential jurors as they begin showing up to court. We're going to get into the latest filings and developments as the sex crimes trial for Sean Diddy Combs is about to begin. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Okay, so before we jump into the case, I want to tell you about something else real quick. We have this brand new podcast. Prospective jurors have begun arriving at the federal courthouse in downtown New York to begin the initial stage of jury selection in Diddy's long-awaited criminal case, where he faces 5 counts: racketeering, sex trafficking, transportation to engage in prostitution. And we're going to get to the questions a little bit later on about what these jurors may be asked, and what the process may be. But there has been a flurry of new activity on the court docket leading up to this trial. So many issues that need to be sorted out. So I want to go through them. And the first one, this is something. So first, we have a interesting defense that was possibly laid out by Sean Combs' attorneys. And it appears the defense wants to argue to the jury that Combs had a diminished mental capacity, meaning we're talking about a mental health defense, that he couldn't properly form the necessary criminal intent, we call it mens rea, to commit the offenses that he's charged with. More specifically, it seems Combs wants to call Dr. Elie G. Aoun, MD, an assistant professor of clinical psychiatry at Columbia University and forensic psychiatrist in New York City. Hopefully I'm pronouncing the doctor's last name correctly. I apologize if I'm not. But the government claims that Dr. Aoun didn't examine Combs, but looked at all these records. And what he plans to opine about is not 100% clear because so much is redacted and blacked out in the filings. However, there are references to whether a defendant is lucid or whether a defendant can control his behavior and volitional acts and, quote, evidence of the effects of drugs and alcohol on a defendant's memory or cognitive function. So is the idea that Combs was so heavily intoxicated that he didn't know what was going on, that he didn't have the proper criminal intent to commit these crimes? So before we get into all that, I want to explain why the government says Dr. Aoun's testimony should be excluded from trial. And essentially, it seems that whatever defense the defense is coming up with, they say it shouldn't be allowed to come in. So first argument is that under federal law, usually a mental disease or defect is usually not a legal defense unless we're talking insanity. However, there's a rare and narrow exception where a defendant can introduce mental health evidence to argue that there was no criminal intent. And because it is so rare and so narrow, the prosecution argues that a defendant has to establish a direct link between the evidence and the specific intent required under the charged offenses. And under the federal rules, the defendant has to provide the proper notice to the government before they can introduce evidence about this. Okay. So the government argues that other rules apply too as well. There's Rule 702 regarding expert witnesses and qualified opinions they can give. There's Rule 703. It puts limits on when and how experts can testify to facts and data that are usually inadmissible. Rule 704 prevents the expert from telling the jury whether or not a defendant had the required mental state for purposes of a specific crime. That's up to the jury to decide. So here, the prosecution says the defense failed everything. Here, the prosecution says the notice was untimely, meaning it's coming in too late in the lead up to trial. This is an improper justice.
I agree. For Diddy's defense to now throw out mental health as a defense when they are going into jury selections tomorrow on Monday, May 5th. I feel like it's late. I feel like it's a Hail Mary by Diddy's defense to now, right before jury selections, to throw out mental health as a defense for Diddy's actions. That's gonna be a pretty tricky way to kind of because how are they gonna put this together to kind of make it look like Diddy was going through some mental health issues that kind of had him do these acts that they're alleging him of doing. That's gonna be a pretty good, pretty interesting defense that his attorneys are going with, because I don't see the correlation. It's not mathing for me.
Defense. It's irrelevant, it's unreliable, especially because the government claims there's no direct link between the mental health evidence and negating an essential element of the actual crimes.
That's exactly what I'm saying. There's no evidence of the mental health issue that they're going to, say that Diddy was going through. Correlation with the mental health issues and the actual acts, it's going to be tough.
Is charged with. They claim that what Combs is arguing is way too general and it's confusing and it's not going to be helpful to the jury. Mm-hmm. And just going back to one specific...
I agree. With this case being so intricate, it's so detailed, because, bro, you're not really talking about anything blatantly. I want to say, I feel like it's a lot of this is going on and this is going on. I feel like it is going to confuse the jurors, trying to say mental health kind of influence his behaviors and how he acted and how he was treating people. Like it's that's an interesting defense I had to come to. If I was a fucking juror, like I would be like, what like. How? I'll feel confused, but at the same time, like, bro, that's bad for Diddy because you're not trying to confuse the jurors right now. You're trying to get them onto your side. So for you to throw like mental health as a defense, it's quite confusing, bro. And I don't know if that's gonna be good for Diddy, bro. Honestly,
the government's filing for why this testimony is inadmissible and why this doctor should not testify. It quotes a prior case, but it reads, thus, the usefulness of the expert testimony in determining whether the defendant was lucid during the course of his participation in a complex...
This is the prosecutors.
...year scheme is substantially reduced. And moreover, they claim that this doctor's testimony would violate the rule that I mentioned before about how an expert can't say definitively whether or not the defendant had the required mental state.
That's what it's talking about. So, bro, the government is trying to not allow the judge to let this therapist, mental health therapist, to come in and give her, I guess, her opinion, her professional opinion on his mental health state. Because like it doesn't make sense. It's like it'll be a hard it'll be hard to freaking prove. So like it's just gonna be so confusing and just making everything so hard. I agree. Hey, anything helps.
Government complains that Dr. Aoun's testimony is unreliable because he didn't examine Sean Combs. He only analyzed certain medical records.
Yeah.
And the government says that's not enough.
Yeah.
So in conclusion,
that's true.
The prosecution argues
that
Dr. Aoun's testimony
that's a
should
good
be
rebuttal.
Excluded, or they're asking the court to hold a hearing about the admissibility of this testimony. It's called a Daubert hearing. So I'm not going to lie to you. This took me hours last night to go through all of these Diddy filings, and I was snacking, I was eating dinner, and I'll tell you what, I try to eat clean, I try to eat healthy, but shopping for healthy food is not so easy. It's tough. Great to see you. We have a lot to get into. This is just part one. So first, let me ask you, am I outside the realm of understanding what this could possibly be? I mean, I've seen reporting about it, but it feels like what the defense may be suggesting is, hey, jury, because of drugs and alcohol or something else, he didn't have the required mental state to commit these crimes. Am I understanding that correct?
Well, shit. Then shit, he can say that about anything, right? He can be like, well, shit. The night when I was having my freak off, shit, I was intoxicated as fuck. Like I was drunk. Like just how people be saying like, yo, they be drinking and then they end up pregnant and they be like, bro, like it just happened. Like, did he say that shit? Can he just be like, yo, I was like fucked up that night. Like, I don't know what the fuck happened. Like, we was just having a good time. I don't know what the fuck. I blacked out. I was on heavy drugs. Like, I was, during that time, my mental health was fucked up. Like, my company was in shambles. Like, I resorted to, I self-medicated. Like, can he say that? And it kind of work?
Jesse, you nailed it. And that's exactly what the defense is trying to do here. And we all know that voluntary intoxication is not a defense to a criminal offense.
What? So, there go our answer.
Drug use, alcohol use. Yeah, if you're drugged, sure. But if you voluntarily take...
Boom! Diddy gonna be like, yo... Diddy gonna be like, yo, one of his people's drugged him, bro. There it is. Diddy gonna be like, yo... I don't know, man. Every time when I drink and I have women over, like somebody drugged me. There it is.
Drugs, that's not a defense. So what the defense is trying to do here is force a square peg through a round hole. Because like you said, it's also well established that an expert or any witness for that matter can't testify to a defendant's criminal state saying they intended to do this or they did not. So I think the judge is going to exclude this particular witness, setting aside the Daubert hearing, setting aside his or her qualifications, or even foundation, because this individual apparently reviewed some other records, didn't examine Combs himself. So for all those reasons, I expect this witness to be excluded. And like you said, Jesse, there are plenty of federal rules and cases that support that exclusion.
I feel like you're right. I feel like the judge is going to agree with the prosecution here, although it does make me wonder, the defense arguing this, and again, so much of this is redacted, but assuming we're right, does this feel like grasping at straws by the defense to go with this defense?
Heck yeah, this is a
It really
freaking
is swinging for the
stretch.
fences here.
Hell
The
yeah.
problem with this type of defense also is you're really admitting that Combs did all this, right? And he just didn't know what he was doing, essentially.
I didn't
That's
even
the
think of
defense.
that shit,
Focused
bro.
on his intent.
I didn't even think of it. Like, bro, if he was to actually go with this defense, and it seems like they are going with this defense, he basically would have to be admitting everything happened. Yes, I had freaked off. I had freak-offs and I was drugged. Or yes, I had freaked off because I was going through these things. Like, yes, I hit Cassie Ventura because of all this anger I had inside, and I like went to anger management. Like, what is, like, he's really have to admit to all these things, and I don't know if admitting to it is in his best favor
At the time. And like you said, maybe if there was one episode where he wasn't lucid, maybe a jury or a judge might consider it. But we're talking about a conspiracy ranging decades here. Is the argument that he was under the influence of drugs for all these freak offs, and when he entered into this conspiracy and when he was procuring these women and men to participate in these sex acts, and when he was completing the acts? Let's not forget the freak offs lasted days. I just don't see it in a case like this.
By the way, so much of this filing, and a lot of the filings, is still redacted. In a few weeks, are we going to know everything?
Well, if the evidence comes in, we will absolutely know everything because, of course, trials are public, and unless there's some evidentiary issue like a hearing that's going to be outside the presence of the jurors, we're going to see and hear everything that comes into evidence in that federal court. But obviously, if something's excluded in some pretrial filing, we're not going to hear it.
Just to be clear, see everything. I mean, there's no cameras in the
Yeah.
courtroom, but there's going to be reporting on it, and maybe some exhibits will be released.
Yo, when the evidence and when discovery comes out about what happened at Diddy's house, bro, I feel like, bro, y'all think Shannon Sharp is like, we wilding right now about Shannon Sharp? Imagine when Diddy shit come out, bro. Yo, imagine when Diddy shit come out, bro. Because we bugging right now about Shannon Sharp. We are bugging right now about Shannon Sharp. Imagine when the freaking videos, text messages, yo, Shannon Sharp text messages was wild. But hey, I don't think he got Diddy beat though. I do not think he got Diddy beat. And bro, we are itching to. I can't wait. When I get off work tomorrow, I'm gonna jump on here because I know we gonna have some updates from the jury selection tomorrow. I know it. But yo, hey, and happy Cinco de Mayo.
Possibly not, but there'll be a lot of reporting on it. Okay, so I want to move on to another argument from the prosecution. So not only do they argue that this doctor's testimony should not be allowed at trial, the jury shouldn't hear it, but they also filed a motion arguing the testimony of another defense witness should not be allowed. And this is Connor McCourt. We've talked about him before. So he is who the defense claims is a forensic video expert who's going to testify about the infamous footage of Combs purportedly beating Cassandra Ventura.
Hold on, why is the defense, why is the prosecutors, the government, why are they They trying to get everything that Diddy's lawyers is trying to puzzling to piece together. The government is just trying to get all of those shits like thrown out. It's like they rebuttal, but I gotta say their rebuttal for the mental health, the therapist that Diddy wanted to bring in is I gotta say it's kind of factual. It's kind of factual. You can't. Yeah. You can see it. You can see what they mean. Like, yo, how is the mental health therapist going to? The mental health therapist or the therapist did not even evaluate him in the moment. They are evaluating paperwork, documents, and that makes sense, bro. Like, as a social worker, we can look at documents, but to get a very concrete and very subjective, I would say, image of the person, they have to be in front of us. They have to be in front of us, and we got to do it. But you can, you can being a social worker, you can still evaluate somebody from paperwork. But for now, them to not want the forensic photographer to look at the authenticity of this video, it's kind of alarming and a little bit side-eyed.
Hotel hallway back in 2016. Remember when CNN published this footage? Apparently there's copies of it. Apparently there were cell phone videos taken of it. Apparently there's raw footage of it. But essentially the defense wants to challenge the authenticity of this footage. And it's not surprising because it could potentially have quite a powerful impact on the jury. Remember,
bro, I'm telling you, the two main things that Diddy need to win is the jury selection and this fucking video. This freaking video. Yo, Diddy attorneys, lawyers, bro, they all they should be doing, bro, is trying to find a way to poke holes in this video to show, yo, this was cut and edited. Yo, Diddy wasn't really running after her. Like, it's not what it seems. It's just been edited to look that way. Bro, like, they need to get the jury on their side, and they need to get rid of some of this fucking evidence.
Prosecution claims this proves Ventura, who we believe to be victim one in the case, was running away from Combs and a sex worker during an infamous freak-off. So, i.e., forced commercial sex work, sex trafficking, right? Now, the defense...
Yo, no lie, because Diddy ran out with a towel, and Cassie was running. It seems to have been trying to quickly get away. For them to say that there was a sex worker in there along with Diddy, and she was trying to run away from the act, yo, they better come with something strong, bro. They better say Diddy was in the shower, and like they had a heated argument, and she walked out, stormed out, and Diddy stormed out after her because they were in a relationship at that time. So shit. If I'm having a conversation with my girl and she just walks out, yo, I'm about to like storm after her too. Like, I don't care what I got on, especially because, if it's like relationship endearing or, harmful to the relationship, bro, I'm trying to go around. I'm running after my girl to try to catch her, and we're gonna talk about this, bro. And I know some people that are like, they like if they want to talk, bro, yo, they gonna talk. So I can see, bro, if they can poke holes in this video, bro, yo, it might crack this case wide open.
Want to call Mr. McCourt to make the argument that the videos the government will rely on are not reliable, that some are artificially sped up, they're distorted, including cell phone videos that make Combs look more stocky and more imposing. There are inaccurate timestamps. In other words, these videos, whatever videos are actually published for the jury to see, they don't accurately portray what may have happened. Now, the prosecution argues, like they did before, the defense failed to provide timely notice of Mr. McCourt's testimony by a certain deadline. This is required under Rule 16. They also argue that this testimony should be excluded because whatever probative or relevant value it may have is substantially outweighed by the risk of unfairly prejudicing the jury, because even though the government says it plans to authenticate the videos, their argument is having this expert come in and say these videos have all of these technical issues, a jury may give more weight to what he has to say. And they claim he doesn't add anything, and that he'll confuse the jury. And the prosecution even suggests that the defense will have, because even though the government says it plans to authenticate the videos, their argument is having this expert come in and say these videos have all of these technical issues, a jury may give more weight to what he has to say. And they claim he doesn't add anything, and that he'll confuse the jury. And the prosecution even suggests that the defense will have an opportunity to cross-examine an unnamed witness about certain videos, so maybe the person who took them, maybe like the cell phone videos, and if there's any questions about quality of the videos, timestamps, the defense can cross-examine this person about any edits that were made or anything like that. And the government also argues that at the very least, his testimony should be limited because he offers legal conclusions that are supposed to be decided by a jury. And his conclusions, they argue, are irrelevant, that they're outside the scope of his expertise. For example, the government writes, for McCourt to testify about the prospect of intentional tampering with the videos based solely on the video files being converted from one format to another is extremely prejudicial. Or how about this? McCourt said that the cell phone videos were handheld with varying focus and zoom, recording a fixed camera view, which has the effect of making the action more dramatic. There's no need for McCourt or any expert to opine whether a video filmed on a cell phone is more dramatic than surveillance footage. This kind of subjective observation, which is based on comparing one type of visual recording with another, is certainly something that the jury is more than capable of making without McCourt's testimony, and his opinion on the matter should be precluded. Now remember, recently the judge said that whatever videos the defense wants to present about this 2016 incident will be coming in. So Nima, you think they're right? You think the prosecution has an argument for why Mr. McCourt should not testify?
Yes and no. I think he's likely going to be able to testify if he can lay a foundation as to why the video was altered. And we know the defense is saying that it was sped up. Of course, CNN has come out publicly and said that they aired what they received. So they received a video from someone at the Intercontinental Hotel in Los Angeles. So we may have multiple witnesses here that are going to be laying the foundation in that sort of chain of custody. You know, I think the argument the prosecution is making really goes to the weight of the evidence, not admissibility. I think this is fair game if, again, this expert can say that these videos were doctored, they were edited, they were sped up, they were chopped up. Now, certain things I agree with the government on. There's no way a witness should be able to testify as to the intent of whoever was editing it. They can come and say, well, this was edited, this was slowed down, this was whatever. But to say that, you know, the prosecution manipulated this to make Combs look bad, that's something for closing argument. That's not something that a witness should properly testify to as to the end.
I agree.
End of whomever altered the video. So I think a judge is going to properly exclude that line of inquiry and testimony.
So his testimony would be limited. Tell us what the technical issues you see in the videos are. Leave a jury to decide what to make of it and why it was done that way. Okay, that makes sense. Now, a lot to get through, so I'm kind of speeding through it. But another argument we need to talk about, this is an important one, is it's called Defendant Sean Combs' Request to Charge. Now, this is about instructions and language to be provided to the jury. So, for example, the defense asked the court, provide the standard instructions that you do when it comes to the role of the court and the jury and the presumption of innocence, okay? Tell the jury that. But then it provides a request for actual instructions for each charge. So, for example, this is what the defense wants the judge to read to the jury. Count 1 charges the defendant with conspiracy to violate the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act in order to prove that the defendant conspired to violate the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. The government must establish beyond a reasonable doubt each of the following elements of the offense. First, there was an agreement among two or more persons to conduct or participate in the affairs of an enterprise that would affect interstate commerce through a pattern of racketeering activity. Second, that the defendant knowingly and willfully joined that agreement. And third, that the defendant agreed that he or another member of the conspiracy would commit two racketeering acts, as I will define that term for you. And this goes through everything, like the list of elements of a racketeering charge and definitions of every term, like what is an enterprise, what is interstate or foreign commerce, definitions of all of the underlying crimes of racketeering, like kidnapping, arson, forced labor. And I got to say, it's actually pretty interesting about how nuanced and specific these definitions are, because honestly, if the jury carefully considers the evidence and the charges and the elements, the case can all depend on this language. So for instance, listen to this part about sex trafficking, because I think this is a little bit of a confusing charge for people. First, that the defendant knowingly transported or recruited or enticed or harbored or provided or obtained or maintained or patronized or solicited a person by any means. Second, that the defendant knew or was in reckless disregard of the fact that force, fraud, or coercion would be used with respect to this person. Third, that the defendant knew or was in reckless disregard of the fact that this person would be engaged in a commercial sex act, as I will define that term for you. And let's talk about that, because Combs wants this to be what a commercial sex act means. So his definition would be that he wants the jury to.
So basically, what they're saying is that they would Diddy would prefer this to have just be identified as just a sex act.
Any sex act on account of which anything of value is given to or received by any person. Mr. Combs maintains that for a sex act to be commercial, there must be a monetary or financial component to the thing of value that is given or received, and the sexual exploitation must be for profit. Now, before I go into the prosecution's language here, Nima, talk to us about why this document is so important, how important it is for this language to be adopted by the jury.
So we're talking about jury instructions and charging instructions, and like you said, certain ones are standard, right? The role of the judge and jury, reasonable doubt, evidence, witnesses. But now we're talking about the specific language for the charges, and whether it's RICO, whether it's sex trafficking, whether it's the prostitution charges, there are what we call pattern jury instructions in every circuit. And obviously, New York is in the Second Circuit. Now, to the extent that some of those instructions need to be modified, that's what a judge is going to do. I don't think a judge is going to include any instruction that says Mr. Combs or the defense argues. The court's going to decide. So we're going to need definitions of force, fraud, and coercion. Right? Those are important because that's what separates sex trafficking from consensual sex between adults. Now, the commercials.
Remember, he's being accused of sex trafficking, and he's basically saying, bro, I was just having escorts and everybody just flying out. Like, I wasn't trafficking anybody. Basically what they're talking about.
Acts. That language is also important. I don't necessarily think anything needs to be specified with respect to profit. I think that is an overreach by the defense. And obviously they want to make the definition as narrow as possible, so the jurors have something to potentially hang their hat on. Say, well, maybe I don't know. Maybe the government didn't prove that money was made, or maybe Combs actually lost money on these freak-offs. He didn't really profit from it.
And that's big to kind of like put in the minds of the jurors, because as a juror, you have to distinguish, was he trafficking people and forcing them to have sex, or was he just flying people out and just having, paid sex workers have sex consensually and having a monetary goal to it, and that's gonna be big, because you don't want the jurors to be confused in the two, because you want that to be very distinct between the two. Like, you do not want the lines to blur.
So I think that's going to be important. There may be individuals that participated in these sex acts for non-monetary reasons. Maybe they wanted fame, or they wanted to spend some time with a celebrity. I mean, we know that sometimes rich and famous artists, they do have an entourage of folks that may willingly engage in these sex acts. That's of course going to be one of the defenses here. So I think the judge is going to have to
You
sort through all
man,
that
what's
and look at
happening? What's
case law to
happening?
see really what is required for something
What
to
did you
be a
miss,
commercial
bro?
sex act.
What did you miss, man? You missed you missed a few updates. Big chillin', Vic chillin'. I feel you. What's happening? What's happening? Yo, man, we just vibing out, man. We just watching some videos, reacting to a couple videos, updating on P. Diddy, seeing a little bit what people talking about Shannon Sharp, and then we jumping into some body cam videos. Yo, those body cam videos be hilarious, man. So we jumping into some body cam videos, and we just rocking out for the night.
Sex.
Yeah, I think that this case could be won or lost based on the language and the instructions, because let me just read to you real quick the government's request to charge. And there are certain agreements that they have with the defense, like, give the standard instructions for role of the court, the jury, all that. But talking commercial sex acts, which I think we've been talking about, is a big part of this case, because while the prosecution claims that these were sexual arrangements that were a crime, the defense is just going to say they were romantic relationships. So listen to how the government defines commercial sex acts. They seem to greatly expand what it can mean. Quote, that term means any sex act on account of which anything of value is given to or received by any person. The term sex act should be given its plain meaning, which is ordinarily understood to be an act performed with another for sexual gratification. It is not required that a commercial sex act occur as long as the government has proven that the defendant recruited, enticed, harbored, transported, provided, obtained, maintained, patronized, or solicited.
Romantic relationship with children is wild.
The thing of value given or received in connection with the commercial sex act need not involve a monetary exchange and need not have any financial component. Instead, it may be any tangible or intangible thing of value given to or received by any person, including promises to help a person with career advancement. The defendant need not be the person who receives the thing of value from the sex act. Nima, quite the difference.
Very different, of course. So the defense is saying that it needs to be a financial transaction and someone needs to profit from it. The government, of course, is saying that, well, if someone wants to advance their career and that's why they had sex with Sean Diddy Combs, that's enough to be a commercial sex act. So really big difference there.
Who's right? Who's right?
Yeah, for sure. Who's right?
Is going to be right here. If they're, generally speaking, when you're talking about something of value, it doesn't necessarily have to be currency. If there is some sort of tangible benefit, the law is pretty broad when it comes to these issues.
Okay, two more documents I want to talk about here. And I know we're speeding through it, but there's just a lot to get into. So we have Sean Combs' proposed voir dire, meaning questions to ask prospective jurors, which is interesting because, as I mentioned before, prospective jurors, they are going to come to court. They're going to fill out questionnaires. Both sides, prosecution, defense, they're going to look through them, provide lists of potential jurors to the judge, and then we believe we're going to get more thorough juror questioning on May 5th. But here's what defense attorneys are looking at in terms of questions they want to be asked. Standard questions.
Yo, the type of questions that Diddy's lawyers, I feel like, need to ask are like, yo, have you ever paid for sex? Have you ever how do you feel about domestic violence? How do you feel about, I feel like his attorneys got to ask the most, uncomfortable questions to vet these jurors that they're going to go. Because, of course, so tomorrow is the start of the jury selection. But they have to make the jurors uncomfortable to kind of see, yeah, okay, let's get him out. He's not going to be on the stand. I mean, he's not going to be in our jury pool. He's got to be out. No, if the slightest of squeamish or the slightest of face image, yo, no, cut the juror, because they definitely not going to be on your side.
It's like, what is your age? What is your sex? How do you get your news? Then there's this. Do you believe you make most decisions based on intuition or the examination of facts? Do you have any personal experiences or opinions about drug or alcohol use or addiction? Which is,
That's true, because remember, this case is heavily on drug use. So to know, let's go back and look at these questions, bro, because these are like I said, these are very important questions.
What is your age?
Like, what is your age? That is big because you know, age is going to be a factor of these people that's in here. What is your sex is going to be like, yo, what like. I feel like women is obviously going to be more affected by this trial than men are. So what is your sex I believe what is your sex is a great question for jury's defense to ask.
What is your sex? How do you get your news?
How do you get your news is another great question for Diddy team to be asking, because remember, the domestic violence video of Cassie came out on a CNN. So to know where the jurors getting their news from is big to know if you're gonna cut this juror or not. Cause bro, if they be like, oh, I watch TV. If they're like, okay, you watch TV, what is your favorite? What news station do you watch? And they be like CNN, boom, cut them. Let's see.
Then there's this. Do you believe you make most decisions based on intuition or the examination of facts? Do you have any personal?
That. Number 16 is big. Do you believe to make most decisions based on intuition or the examination of facts? The reason why that's a pretty good question for Diddy's team to be asking is because I feel like Diddy's team is going to bring up a lot of like hard evidence of hard defenses as to why, because you see how they're already talking about bringing a mental health therapist in to the trial to determine the state of minds, his mental capacity, his mental health during all of these freak offs and everything that was going on. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good. And then also you're seeing that Diddy team is also bringing in a forensic photographer to scrutinize the CNN video that was put out to scrutinize the authenticity of that video. So to know if they make their decisions based on intuition or examination of facts, because they're bringing in two supposedly professionals, a photographer to analyze the CNN video, and one, the mental health therapist to tell you the state of mind of Diddy while all this was going on, is a good question.
Experiences or opinions about drug or alcohol use or addiction, which is
drug or alcohol use or addiction, it could go both ways, because if Diddy's gonna say that drugs played a factor, he was heavily on drugs and stuff like that, a juror that has a person that is going through some type of alcohol abuse or anything might have some sympathy for Diddy, for what if he was using alcohol as a way of self medicating, like that might these are some good questions. Diddy's attorneys coming in with them haymakers. All right, Mayhem, off topic of the video, but is it too funny not to share? So I posted your Twitch link on my IG last night, and someone was like, what the hell, Mayhem, catfishing? She's a black... What? She's a black man? Yo, that's crazy. Yo, Mayhem, that's fun.
Common theme in this case. What kind of music do you like? Do you have experience or training in the area of sex?
Yo, what kind of music is like is important as well, because of course you know what kind of music Diddy put out. So I'm pretty sure they're looking for, I would expect they're looking for they're looking for a specific juror that is open-minded with music genres. Of course, I'm pretty sure they're not going to be I'm pretty sure they're not going to be looking for anybody like anybody out of the blue type shit. So, you know, I'm pretty sure they're interested in what kind of genre this person likes.
Drug or alcohol use or addiction, which is, you know, a common theme in this case. What kind of music do you like? Do you have experience or training in the area of sex crimes? There's a question about cheating. There's another question about feelings towards...
Yo, cheating is... Yo, these are some nice questions, bro. I feel like they'll really be able to vet... I think that they're really going to be able to vet these these jurors out with these questions, because these are some great questions. Do you have any strong feelings about criminal defense lawyers? Do you have any strong feelings about prosecutors? There's going to be a testimony from law enforcement officers in this case. Would you find law enforcement officers' testimony more credible than other witnesses? These are some haymaker questions, bro. Like, these are some haymaker questions. Let me see. You are also going to hear testimony from alleged victims in this case. Do you think you would tend to favor the alleged victim testimony over other witnesses? Like, this is gonna be a lit trial.
How much weight they would give alleged victims' testimony? We looked at the prosecution's proposed jury questions too, and those consisted of feelings regarding prostitution, sexual assault, rape, firearms. Nemo, what do these questions tell you about what the defense and the prosecution is looking for in terms of jurors?
The parties are trying to find favorable jurors, and of course the defense wants folks who may potentially hang this panel, people that may decide that, you know what, I don't believe the testimony of these victims, because let's not forget, this case is going to come down entirely.
Yo, Mayhem, thank you for stopping into the stream, man. Have a good night.
And the person's going to want to corroborate that.
Yo, we gaming tomorrow?
Video, for instance, video is the best evidence. It doesn't lie. And the defense is going to say that they're fabricating all this because of fame, money, revenge, something like that. So what they're trying to do is get people's feelings about sexual assault. There are a lot of people that believe that it is the most underreported crime. Other people think that it can be falsely reported. So by asking these questions, they really kind of try to prod and probe into these potential jurors to see.
And sex crime is one of those crimes that is very controversial. As we see the Shannon Sharpe case right now, it's controversial. Is Shannon Sharpe being extorted? Is Shannon Sharpe actually sexually assaulted this woman? Like, sex crimes are very controversial. So it's
favorable or disfavorable to their case.
Yeah, I mean, there's even a question, is there any reason why you cannot be a fair and impartial juror for this case? I wonder how many people are going to check that box and be honest about it, because it's tough. This is
bro, ain't nobody going to be honest, bro.
And it's going to take some time. But I will tell you, there is one more issue I wanted to talk to you about, Nima, because I said there's a flurry of filings. So the defense wrote a letter to the court on April 23rd complaining about the government sending an enterprise letter on April 20th. This was 2 weeks after their last superseding indictment against Combs. Remember, Combs was hit with a third amended superseding indictment added to charges, a little bit of difference in language. And all that enterprise letter is supposed to do is provide more details about the racketeering charge. But here, the defense is like, you filed this so late, well past the deadline, we're about to go to trial. The defense claims that this letter has new evidence, new legal theories, 15 days before trials to start. We can't prepare in time. And what all this is about is not clear because so much of it is redacted, but we can kind of get a clue here. For example, their filing says, in other words, while the government had previously raised forced labor allegations only as to victim 4 in the second superseding indictment, the government now seeks to raise forced labor allegations, and then it's redacted. And by the way, forced labor is a part of the racketeering charge. There's no reason to believe these allegations were ever presented to and thus approved by the grand jury. To the contrary, the government's extremely late disclosure of these new theories suggests a last-minute attempt to alter and broaden its case. So Combs is asking the court to exclude evidence relating to these new allegations. The prosecution just responded in a letter of its own. They argue that this is just the defendant's attempt to exclude powerful evidence from the case, that we provided information about freak-offs already. We believe we already provided notice of the evidence of racketeering. But it's also, by the way, their argument is, this is really evidence of sex trafficking counts for victims 1 and 2. And if that's the case, we don't have to provide additional notice beyond what's in the indictment. We don't need to provide more particular details about that. Sex trafficking is an underlying predicate crime for racketeering, but it's also stands alone as two separate charges. And they argue allowing this evidence to come in doesn't mean we're amending the third superseding indictment or anything like that. Nima, I gave kind of a condensed summary of both of their arguments, but who's right here?
I think the government's right here. So when you're looking at the racketeering charge, it's a conspiracy. So you have the unlawful agreement. We've talked about that a bit. Then you have the enterprise itself, and it doesn't have to be an actual organization like the mob or the cartel. It's a loose association of two or more people. And we know that Combs had people that were helping him set up these freak-offs to procure the individuals, set up the lights, the cameras, the hotel rooms. So I think we're going to get that. Then we're talking about those RICO predicate acts, and we know that we need two or more acts. And typically you have things like assault, you have things like extortion, you have sex trafficking or forced labor, and we know that there's at least some allegations related to one employee and some of these victims, to the extent that they were forced to engage in these acts, that also can qualify as predicate acts. So I think the government has the upper hand here. The indictment is pretty detailed, and we've had now multiple superseding indictments. So I think ultimately the court is going to side with the government here.
All right, we shall see. Nima Rahmani, thank you for doing this marathon of legal issues as we head into the Sean Diddy Combs trial. I'm sure we're going to get a flurry of more activity on the court docket website as this continues. But thank you so much for taking the time. Good seeing you.
Thanks, Jesse. Thanks for having me, as always.
And that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you should get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. I'll speak to you next time.
Yo, that's wild, bro. That is wild. But hey, let's get into this. Hey, let's get into the Shannon Sharpe, man. Let's get into the Shannon Sharpe saga, bro. Let's get into the Shannon Sharpe saga. Okay? And of course, Dr. Umar, he has something to say.
How you feel about Shannon Sharpe, him getting sued for $50 million by a white girl, a 19-year-old white girl?
It's interesting, Art, because last week I was at FDMG Academy doing some walkthroughs with some potential floor contractors, because we still have to get the floors covered up. The concrete where we remove the rugs, that has to be covered up with tile. And so I'm in Wilmington, Delaware, outside of the school, and all of a sudden, my phone started going off. It started going off. I don't know if this was Monday or Tuesday, because Tony Busby, the attorney representing the alleged victim, Gabriella Zuniga, or should we call her Gabriella I Love to Sue Ninjas, but that case was entered into court Sunday, a week from yesterday. And so I think I was at the school on Monday. It must have been, Art, Monday or Tuesday. And so my phone is going off, and I'm getting all these texts. Shannon Sharpe has been snow bunny. Shannon Sharpe has been snow bunny.
Nice.
Dr. Umar, Shannon is being accused of the unthinkable.
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
And
Yo, not Shannon Sharpe has been snow bunnied. Shannon Sharpe has been seen of the dakeable.
You son of a bitch!
Yo, that's funny, bro. Hey, that's funny as fuck, bro.
Bruh.
me, because as you know, me and Shannon Sharpe have had some back and forths over the internet, never directly, but obviously me speaking to him and him speaking to me about, his position that he don't date black women and that he prefers Caucasians. And of course, being who I am, respecting all women, no matter what the color, but I believe black men need to be with black women. And given the fact that Sean Puffy Combs finds himself in a situation he's in, and R. Kelly finds himself in a situation he's in, and Bill Cosby finds himself in a situation he's in, and of course, Sean Carter freeing himself from false allegations that Tony Busby had lodged against him, you would think that in the aftermath of all of these sex assault cases that's going on, that Shannon Sharpe or any black male celebrity for that matter will conduct themselves in a more responsible manner. So I'm not here to beat a man when he's down, obviously, because as I've made it clear on social media, okay, to the disappointment of many, I stand with Shannon Sharpe. And I stand with Shannon Sharpe.
Yo, this nigga's amazing, bro. This nigga's fucking amazing.
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
Art for one reason and one reason only. And
This nigga's fucking amazing, bro. How the fuck can you be upset at this nigga, bro? This nigga said, let me rewind this shit, bro.
on Carter freeing himself from false allegations that Tony Busby had lodged against him, you would think that in the aftermath of all of these sex assault cases that's going on, that Shannon Sharpe or any black male celebrity for that matter will conduct themselves in a more responsible manner. So I'm not here to beat a man when he's down, obviously, because as I've made it clear on social media, okay, to the disappointment of many, I stand with Shannon Sharpe. And I stand with Shannon Sharpe on Art for one reason and one reason only. And that is because what he did in having a relationship with a 19-year-old snow bunny is not illegal. And so dealing with the American court system, morals has no place in it. Morals have no place in American law. If it did, we would have never been enslaved.
Leave it up to fucking Dr. Umar to drop a bar like this, bro. Bro, ain't no fucking way. Yo, leave it up to fucking Dr. fucking Umar to drop a fucking bar like that, bro. Like, that was a fucking bar, Lou. Like, am I tripping? That was a fucking bar, bro. Yo, I'ma fucking rewind this shit, bro.
In having a relationship with a 19-year-old snow bunny
is not illegal.
And
It's-
so dealing with the American court system,
Morals does
has
not
no place in it.
has no place, bro. Morals has no fucking place in the fucking court system, bro. Like, that's why women could fucking go to court and fucking ask for the fucking highest of fucking child support, and it sometimes gets awarded to them. Women could go to court and fucking like cry wolf and shit get awarded to them, bro. Like, and like, yo, morals does not exist in the court of justice, bro. Like, morals, dog. What the fuck? Dog. The fuck? It's only if were there a crime committed. Was there a crime committed? Yes or no? That is all that the courts is there for, bro. That's fucking it, bro. And Dr. Umar said that shit, bro. Like, bruh, if fucking morals was in the fucking court system, bitch, what fucking judge morally would allow that shit to fucking consist?
No place in American law. If it did, we would have never been enslaved. So in a court of law, it's about whether you broke the law. It's not about whether what you did was right or wrong. And so I'm standing with Shannon Sharpe because I don't want to see his life destroyed like Puff, like Kelly, like they tried to do to Carter, like they've done to Cosby. I don't want to see this happen to another man. And because she was not legally a child, although too young for nearly all of us to feel comfortable with the man of his age dating her, it was not against the law for him to be with this 19-year-old. So what do we know about this situation? According to Gabriela Zuniga, she met Shannon Sharp at a gym in Los Angeles approximately 2 years ago, 2023. Now, Shannon alleges that he tried to present her with an NDA, non-disclosure agreement, which every celebrity should require from anyone they engage with. Well, guess what, Art? She decides she's not going to sign the NDA. That right there
with
was
a
warning
red
to Shannon
fucking
Sharp
flag.
that this 19-year-old,
Babe, nigga,
who you shouldn't be dating anyway because of her age,
is
because
not
of her
following
race,
your
you
fucking
need to
rules,
end this.
nigga.
If she don't want to sign an NDA,
NDA,
dating a celebrity,
bro,
you know what that means.
it.
That means if this doesn't go her way,
Wait, she
she's
is
gonna
blabbing.
expose.
Her
Shannon Sharp
fucking
shoulda
mouth,
ended
nigga.
it right there. The problem was, she fit his type. Obviously, Uncle Shay Shay, he likes Caucasian women, as we all know. And he likes them very skinny, which I didn't know. And the reason I'm saying that is the pictures that are floating around the internet on Gabrielle Asu Ninja is the pictures of a very petite Caucasian woman who, not being disrespectful when I say this, appears to be built like a 13, 14, 15-year-old child. She doesn't appear to be developed like a woman. She doesn't appear to be a woman who's in childbearing age. There's no curves on that body. There's no lumps on that body. And according to her, allegedly, Shannon Sharp told her,
Yo, this nigga can't even keep his straight face down. Yo, I'm crying, bruh. I'm crying, bruh. I'm crying, bruh. I'm crying, bruh. That's funny, bro. Yo, that's funny, bro. I'm crying, bruh. Now that was some funny shit, bro. That was some funny shit. Yo, I gotta go back.
Shannon Sharp should have ended it right. The problem was, she fit the man. And because she was not legally a child, although too young for nearly all of us to feel comfortable with a man of his age dating her, it was not against the law for him to be with this 19-year-old. So what do we know about this situation? According to Gabriela Zuniga, she met Shannon Sharp at a gym in Los Angeles approximately 2 years ago, 2023. Now, Shannon alleges that he tried to present her with an NDA, non-disclosure agreement, which every celebrity should require from anyone they engage with. Well, guess what, Art? She decides she's not going to sign the NDA. That right there was a warning to Shannon Sharp that this 19-year-old, who you shouldn't be dating anyway because of her age, because of her race, you need to end this. If she don't want to sign an NDA dating a celebrity, you know what that means. That means if this doesn't go her way, she's going to expose you. Shannon Sharp should have ended it right there. The problem was, she fit his type. Obviously, Uncle Shay Shay, he likes Caucasian women, as we all know.
Wait a minute.
And he likes them very skinny, which I didn't know. And the reason I'm saying that is the pictures that are floating around the internet on Gabrielle Asu Ninjas is the pictures of a very petite Caucasian woman who, not being disrespectful when I say this, appears to be built like a 13, 14, 15-year-old child. She doesn't appear to be developed like a woman. She doesn't appear to be a woman who's in childbearing age. There's no curves on that body. There's no lumps on that body. And according to her, allegedly, Shannon Sharpe told her that if she would lose enough weight for him, he would buy her some artificial breasts. Now, that's very puzzling to me, Art, because she's already extra skinny, extra petite, no booty, no breast, no nothing. Why would you want her to lose any more weight? So from that, we can gather that Shannon Sharpe's type is an extra pale, extra skinny Caucasian. He definitely don't like a 5'5" thick in the thighs like that. He don't want butter almond. He don't want butter pecan. He don't want fudge, cinnamon, mahogany. He don't even want African vanilla, African butterscotch, African lemonade. He wants some pale and skinny. I want them brown chocolate and curvy. So anyway, they engage in this BDSM relationship.
Yo!
It appears that both of them allegedly
shit?
are sadomasochists. They are into BDSM behavior. Bondage, domination, submission, and humiliation. That's what BDSM means. Now, some people are asking the question, why didn't Shannon find someone a little older? Why didn't Shannon, with his money and his fame, find an older white woman or older black woman, even if you went with your 30s, even if you went with your 20s? Why didn't Shannon, with his money and fame, get a woman who was a little bit more mature? I'm going to tell you why I think he didn't get a woman who was a little bit more mature, Art. Number one, he's not interested in women who are a little bit more mature. But also, Art, you and I know that if you get you a sophisticated black woman, and I'm assuming it's the same for the Snow Bunny Mafia, but if you get you a sophisticated black woman, she ain't going to be doing all that freaked out stuff early on in the relationship. You're going to have to earn that if you get it at all, if you understand what I'm saying. Ain't no black woman I know, not no black woman of respect, whether she's a celebrity or regular working class sister with a 9-to-5 trying to make ends meet. She is not going to be engaging in BDSM behavior unless you put a ring on it. You're either going to put a ring on it or you're going to pay her up front. And it appears that in Shannon's relationship with Gabriella, he wasn't taking care of her financially, Art. It does not appear that he was taking care of the Snow Bunny financially. Because if he was, why are there texts of her asking him for $10,000? If you are a multi-millionaire celebrity, king of the black podcast amongst the celebrities, you on, News One, you're on First Take with Stephen A. Smith, you on ESPN, Fox, used to be on Fox Sports, whatever the case may be, you got money. Why is your side piece, your jump off, why are you not taking care of her? He broke the first rule of being a player as a celebrity. You keep them happy so they don't destroy you. You keep them happy so they don't expose you. And he was not taking care of her financially. That was a big mistake. But she was okay with that, Art. Why? Because it appears that Gabriella allegedly was looking forward to having Shannon Sharpe's baby. She kept talking about getting pregnant. And then Uncle Shay Shay made another mistake because he says to her in the text message, if I still F with you around my birthday, if I still F with you around my birthday,
You son of a
you
bitch!
remove
Hey, yo, what
the
the fuck?
IUD. So Art, she's having unprotected sex with a 19-year-old OnlyFans model.
Hey, yo, what the
Illegal?
fuck?
No.
Bruh.
Stupid? Yes. But here's where it gets even more critical, Art. By telling her she can remove her IUD, if you still messing with her around your birthday, you're giving her false hope. You're giving her false hope. And what you're doing, Uncle Shannon Sharpe, is you're turning this from a transactional relationship with benefits, sex for cash, and you're turning this into a legitimate romance. When Shannon told her she can take out the IUD, which automatically implies it's okay for me to get pregnant now, you automatically led this woman into thinking she was going to have a long-term relationship with you that would involve a child. Now, you and I know, Art, that something psychologically and emotionally had to be wrong with her, because why is a 19-year-old OnlyFans snow bunny thinking she's going to get married to or have a baby with Shannon Sharpe? It don't make sense. Why would he give you a baby and have to walk around letting the world know I impregnated someone younger than my own daughter, almost old enough to be my granddaughter? He's not going to do that. For her to think he would tells you that she had the mind of a child. Wishful thinking, imaginary thinking, without a lot of common sense and logic. So let's go further, Art. This whole time she's telling Shannon, I want this big black baby. She says, I always wanted a black baby. Now, time out. Why does a 19-year-old snow bunny says she always wanted a black baby? You always wanted a black baby for what? Because you didn't want a black baby to raise it, because you're not black. Why would you want a black baby given the hell that black people suffer in this country? I believe she was trying to sweet talk him into the pregnancy. I believe she was trying to sweet talk him into the pregnancy. And then when she said, you better get used to it. She texted him, Art, and she said, you better get used to me, because once you put that big black baby in me, you ain't never getting rid of me. She said, you better get used to me, because after you put that big black baby in me, you ain't never getting rid of me. And I think that was the text message that scared Shannon Sharpe. When Shannon got that text message, when she said, after you put that big black baby in me, you ain't never getting rid of me, that's when he knew he was dealing with a psycho. And I think from that point forward, he started trying to separate, failing to realize that you didn't do this to no sister. You did this to a privileged white girl. OnlyFans model or not, she is a privileged white girl. What black men need to understand in America, Art, that they still don't understand. It doesn't matter if the white woman is homeless. It doesn't matter if the white woman is strung out on drugs. It doesn't matter if the white woman is a prostitute. It doesn't matter if the Caucasian is an OnlyFans model. She is still a white woman in America. And if she accused you of doing wrong, you will be brought down and disgraced as if you were accused by Hillary Clinton herself. And so Shannon Sharpe, not recognizing the political implications of this private sexual relationship, he gave her the weapons that she could use to destroy him. So first it started with, put your black baby gravy in me. And first of all, Art, I don't want us to gloss over the fact that she is objectifying this black baby that she wants to have. Why not just say, I want your baby? Why not just say, I want a beautiful baby? Why not just say, I want Shannon Sharpe's baby? No, I want you to put a big black baby in me. She's almost calling him ugly. And she's almost calling the baby ugly too. But what I want black men to understand, not that black is ugly for us, Art, but black is ugly for them. And so what she's doing, she's objectifying this baby even before she's impregnated. And this is important because black men need to understand, Art, that white women don't like us. They fetishize us. White women don't like us. They fetishize us. And the problem with the Negro, the problem with the coon, the problem with these politically unconscious, sexually thirsty black male celebrities, Art, is they can't tell the difference between a white woman who favors you and a white woman who fetishizes you. White women don't favor black men. White women fetishize black men. So moving on, Art, Tony Busby is suing Shannon Sharpe in court, Las Vegas, Nevada, Clark County, for his client, Gabriella Zuniga, I sue niggas, on 2 counts of civil violation. Number 1, he's being accused of intentional infliction of emotional distress. Intentional infliction of emotional distress. And number 2, he's being accused of 2 counts of sex assault. So you got intentional infliction of emotional distress and 2 counts of sex assault. Now, check this out, Art. Some people are asking the question whether or not I believe that the white power structure involved itself in this lawsuit. People are asking whether or not I believe the elites of the world put themselves or had some influence on this case, and I believe they did, Art. I'm going to tell you why. Gabriella allegedly told Shannon, let's back up. She sent Shannon a text, Art, and she said, I need $10,000. She sends Shannon a PayPal link for $10,000. Uncle Shay Shay says, I don't hit the Cash App. I got 10 grand for you when I see you. Gabriella says, I need it now. I'm broke. Uncle Shay Shay said, I'm not
broke.
sending you no money electronically. 10K when I see you. So guess what she does, Art? Gabriella tells Shannon, take a picture of the 10. Guess what she was doing, Art? When she asked Shannon Sharpe to send her a picture of the $10,000, she was setting him up right then. She was setting him up with the 10K. What do I mean, Art? Prostitution is illegal in Clark County, Nevada.
Damn.
Prostitution is illegal in most states.
Damn.
So the reason she wanted Shannon Sharpe to send her a picture of the money
Yo, he uncovered
so she
it.
could
He
have
uncovered
him
it.
arrested for solicitation of prostitutions. She plays dirty, brother.
Yo,
She plays dirty. She was lining up her ducks already when she said, send me what black man you know are going to send a 19-year-old OnlyFans Snow Bunny a picture of $10,000. You know what that looks like? It looks like I'm paying you for sex.
Yo.
That's prostitution. Puffy is being accused of that. R. Kelly was convicted of that. And the other thing she tried to get him on, Art, is the Mann Act. The Mann Act is a federal law that makes it illegal to transport women across state lines for purposes of sex. When Shannon Sharpe relocated to Las Vegas from Los Angeles, she followed him. When Shannon Sharpe relocated from California to Nevada, she followed him. If she could show that she was paid to cross state lines to have sex with this ex-NFL superstar, he could be accused of breaking federal law. See, the Mann Act, Art, was created in 1910. And guess why the federal government created the Mann Act? To try to incarcerate the first black heavyweight champion, Jack Johnson.
Leo, let's fact check that. Let's fact check that. The Mann Act. The Mann Act. Oh, shit. He was right. The Mann Act. Yep. The Mann Act, also known as the White Slave Traffic Act of 1910, is a federal law that criminalizes the transportation of any woman or girl for the purpose of prostitution, for any other moral purpose. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. You know what he's talking about.
Remember, Jack Johnson was our first with this ex-NFL superstar. He could be accused of breaking federal law. See, the Mann Act, Art, was created in 1910. And guess why the federal government created the Mann Act? To try to incarcerate the first black heavyweight champion, Jack Johnson. Remember, Jack Johnson was our first popular snow bunny hopper, right? He was the first black man who openly, even before it was acceptable, openly ran around the world with white girls. And so the U.S. Congress, 2 years after he became heavyweight champion of the world, 2 years after Jack Johnson became heavyweight champion of the world, the U.S. Congress created the Mann Act. He became champion in 1907, 1908. They passed the Mann Act in 1910. And by the way, Art, the Mann Act is also known as the White Slave Traffic Act. The White Slave Traffic Act. So she tried to get Shannon Sharpe to send her a picture of the money, Art, so she could get him arrested for prostitution, state charge in Nevada, and so she could get him arrested on the Mann Act, the White Slave Traffic Act, federal crime. She was playing dirty. But Shannon didn't fall for it. So guess what she does? She decides, I'm going to record the next sex act that we have. And when I record the next sex act that we have, I'm going to engineer this, allegedly, I'm going to engineer this to make it look like he SA'd me. So Art, she tapes it, she videos it, and allegedly, this video, the audio, has her telling him to stop. He allegedly doesn't stop. But guess what? When you listen to this, it sounds as if he could very well be continuing because she is a BDSM freak. If you are normally having aggressive sex, Art, if you are normally having bondage and domination in submissive sex, if you are having sadomasochistic sex, how do you know when it's sex and how do you know when it's assault? When does the sex stop and when does the assault begin? And it appears to me, Art, that she didn't have a problem with him sodomizing her. She had a problem with him not using a condom when he did it. But then my question becomes, if y'all were already having unprotected sex for nearly 2 years, why did you need him to wear a condom this time? I'll tell you why she needed him to wear a condom this time, Art, because she was setting him up, as he rightfully said, for the shakedown. For the shakedown. So first of all, Art, she wanted a baby out of Shannon. Because for a snow bunny dating a wealthy black man, a baby is financial insurance. For a snow bunny dating a successful black man, the mixed race baby, the big black baby, is my financial insurance. She thought Shannon Sharpe was into her until the infamous Instagram Live scandal. You remember that? When Shannon Sharpe was caught on tape banging out a snow bunny on Instagram Live. He claimed he didn't put the Instagram Live on. We will never know the story, but that ain't the point. The point, Art, is she was looking for a baby until Shannon cheated on her with the Instagram Live scandal. Everything changed after the Instagram Live, Art. Everything changed. She went from wanting to be a baby mama to being an extortionist. Because after that, it became all about the money. She told Shannon, she said, I know you missed this big, juicy booty. I don't know what booty she's talking about, Art, because I didn't see no booty. I saw two pale, ashy, extra flat buttermilk biscuits. I don't know what booty she claiming she got. But anyway, she told Shannon, you have to pay me $25,000 for each one of my cheeks. $25K for the left cheek, $25K for the right cheek. Here's the problem with that, Art. If he only needed to pay you 50 grand for your flat cheek, 50K, how did you end up at 50 million? Art, she said 25K for each cheek. That's only 50 grand. So how did we go from 0 to 100 in a couple weeks? You just wanted 50 grand. But your lawyer, Tony Busby, wants 50 million. Here's why I believe the power structure might be involved, Art. You are not going to convince me that a 19-year-old OnlyFans model, I don't care if she black, white, brown, yellow, or red, you are not going to convince me that if you offer a 19-year-old OnlyFans model who sells videos of her body for cash apps on the regular. She sells videos and pictures of her body on the internet for cash apps. And she gets offered $10 million to walk away when she only asks for 50 grand. Think about this, Art. She only asked for 50 grand. Shannon Sharpe says, I'm going to give you $10 million to walk away. And she says no. Art, do you know of anybody on OnlyFans, do you know of any 19-year-old teenager who, if offered $10 million to shut up and go away, when they only wanted 50 grand, do you know of any 19-year-old girl who is not going to take the 10 million?
Anybody taking 10 million?
Thank you. You on OnlyFans. You making money by selling your body, so you clearly not doing too well in these streets.
Damn.
You get offered 10 million and you turn it down? I believe the NFL power structure,
Yo.
or maybe the white media power structure, or
Yo,
maybe
we
the
vibing
white
out, we vibing out,
podcast
man.
power structure. Somebody
Vibing
was
out.
jealous of
Reacting
Shannon
to-
Sharpe's upcoming
reacting to the
$100
Shannon
million
Sharpe,
contract.
Dr. Umar
Somebody
video.
was jealous of Shannon Sharpe's upcoming $100 million contract.
How was your
and they
weekend?
intervened at the level of Tony Busby, or they intervened at the level of Gabriella Azu.
Thanks.
One
thanks,
or
man.
the other. Because
I
ain't
put a lot
no
of work into it,
19-year-old
man. A lot of work
OnlyFans model
into it, man, to
turning
be
down
visually
no
appealing.
10K. Somebody wanted Shannon Sharpe embarrassed. Somebody wanted Shannon Sharpe humiliated. Somebody wanted Shannon Sharpe's financial future destroyed. But Shannon
Damn,
Sharpe
bruh.
made a big mistake, Art. He made the same mistake Sean Puffy Combs made. You know what that is? Offering too much money too soon. Remember when we had our last conversation, I said what?
Working on a
Puffy
Sunday
messed up
sucks.
when he offered Cassie that amount of money in less than 24 hours. It makes you look guilty. It makes you look guilty. Shannon Sharpe offered the 19-year-old Snow Bunny $10 million.
Yeah, game.
That was too much money, and it was too soon. And where there's smoke, there's fire. So Tony Busby and the white power structure allegedly stepped in and said, if he can give you 10 that easy, if he can give you 10 that easy. Remember, Shannon was bragging when he was talking about how the Cat Williams interview made him more money than he ever made in the NFL. Remember that, Art?
Yo, this guy spitting facts for real.
He's letting people know that the pockets is kind of heavy.
Yo.
So when he offered Gabriella Asu Ninjas $10 million, they said, oh, we can get a whole lot more than that.
Yo.
The shame of it all, Art, is we don't even know if Shannon going to get the $100 million contract now.
Yo, for real.
I
though.
hope he does.
Yep.
I want what's best for my brother. I hope Shannon still gets his $100 million deal. It's hard out here for a black man. But Art, if they suing him for $50 million, what if he don't get the $100 million deal?
Oh shit, bro.
Think about that. I don't know what he's worth. I don't pocket watch. But let's just say Shannon don't get it, and I hope he does. Knock on wood. But if Shannon don't get the $100 million, Art, and the court award her $50 million, what if he don't even have $50 million? What if he don't even have $50 million? They would have been better, Art,
nice
and I'm
to
glad
meet you
they
too.
didn't. I'm glad they showed their hand. But they would have been
Nice
better
to meet you
off
too.
waiting
Thank you for
until
stopping
he got
by
his
to the
contract.
stream, man. I appreciate it.
They would have been better off waiting until he had his contract so they could show that he got the money. But you coming in for a cash out before he's even signed the contract. Bad move on their part, but that was good luck for Shannon. Now let me back up a little bit, Art. I got some questions for Tony Busby and Gabriella Zuniga. If I am Shannon Sharpe's attorney, Lanny Davis, if I am Shannon Sharpe's attorney, Lanny Davis, I got some questions, Art. Question number one, Gabriella Zuniga. You claim that Shannon Sharpe was abusive and controlling for the entire 2-year relationship. If Shannon Sharpe was abusive and controlling during the entire 2-year relationship, why
By the way,
did
I
you
have an
pack
idea,
up
man. Can I share it
and
with
follow
you? Yeah,
him
for sure, man.
to Las Vegas from California?
What you got?
If he was abusing
No,
you
for sure,
in
for
Las
sure, for
Angeles,
sure.
don't you think he would also be abusing you in Las
Nevada?
Vegas?
Yep. Mhm.
So why did you follow
him.
an abusive man from one state to another.
Bang.
That don't make no sense. Question number 2. Gabriella Zuniga, you claim that Shannon Sharpe SA'd you twice.
Yep.
October of 2024,
Yep.
January of 2025.
Yep.
You claim allegedly he SA'd you October 2024, January 2025. If he SA'd you in October of 2024, why didn't you call the police?
Yep.
You mean to tell me you're a privileged white girl.
Uh-huh.
You was just SA'd by one of the most popular former athletes
yes.
in NFL history.
Uh-huh.
And you don't call the police.
After that?
You do not seek to take this man off the street.
Yo, no, for real. No, God, I don't know why nobody ain't think that shit. Like, bro, you just got sexually assaulted by the most popular nigga on freaking on YouTube. About to sign up, most popular nigga, and you don't call the police like the same day. Like, you don't try to the same day that shit happened. You don't like try to do some shit, bro. Like, it's now, bro. That's funny. That's funny.
You are not fearful that he might not try to do this to you again. You don't tell the police at all that you were SA'd by this big, black, muscular athlete. That don't make any sense. All right. 5,000 black men were hanged in this country from emancipation of slavery to assassination of Malcolm X. 5,000 black men were hanged in this country from the emancipation of slavery to the assassination of Malcolm X. 1865 to 1965, over 5,000 black men hanged. Do you know why most of them were hanged? For being accused of having consensual sex or non-consensual sex with white girls.
God damn.
The biggest offense a black man can commit on American soil is to lay with a white woman, especially against her will. And so this 19-year-old white girl was SA'd by this 56-year-old celebrity, allegedly, and she don't call the police. Who in the hell wants to believe that? Because I don't. But I got another question for Gabriella Zuniga. Gabriella, so Shannon Sharpe was abusing you for 2 years, but you followed him from one state to the next. He sexually assaulted you, allegedly. You don't call the police. And then 2 to 3 months later, Art, in January of 2025, he comes to your home bearing birthday gifts and Christmas gifts.
You get me up on Discord.
He comes to your home bearing birthday gifts and Christmas gifts, and you telling me that this man who just SA'd you 2-3 months ago, you're going to let him back in your house for some Christmas gifts and birthday gifts, and according to her, he SA'd her a second time. Nobody on the planet Earth is going to convince me that a black man, celebrity, multi-millionaire, SA'd a 19-year-old. She don't call the police. 3 months later, she lets him back into the house because he has birthday gifts and Christmas gifts, and he SA's her again, Art, and she still doesn't call the police. Gabriella Zuniga, I got another question for you, young lady. These sex assaults that you allege against my client, Shannon Sharpe.
Bro, what?
These
since when Shannon Sharpe
was
his client?
Against my client, Shannon Sharpe.
Bro, since when this man was his client, bro?
Limitations.
Yo.
Have not run the statute of limitations. So why did you not seek to have him arrested and tried for sex assault?
Instead of
take him to civil court for your money.
Yes. Yo, charge him for the crime and then sue him for the money for the crime. Like, what's going on here?
O.J. Simpson was found innocent in criminal court, but O.J. Simpson was found liable in civil court.
In civil court, he paid that.
Gabriella, in the interest of protecting white women from sexually uncontrolled black men like Shannon Sharpe, allegedly, and I'm being sarcastic on purpose here, why not turn him into the police, have him tried in court, arrested, taken off the street, and you can still get your thirsty ass lawyer, Tony Busby, to sue him in criminal court. Art, it makes no sense for her not to be pursuing charges in criminal court. You were SA'd twice by a black male celebrity and you don't want no criminal justice. You only want financial justice. Art, this is a shakedown. And I do agree that Shannon Sharpe was right when he went public and offered his 1 to 2 minute statement of innocence, because it would not have been to his benefit to let Gabriella sit behind a curtain, destroy his name and legacy this entire time, and nobody know who she is. I'm glad he said who she was. I'm glad he told the world that this was an OnlyFans model. I agree with what he did.
All right, I got
it
you.
may not hold up in court, but it don't matter. You know why, Art? Because Shannon is going through 2 trials right now. Shannon is going through civil court with the white man and a court of public opinion with the black man, the black woman, the white man, and the white woman. And guess what? Guess which one of those are more critical, Art? The court of public opinion. Because in civil court, she's going to get paid and then life will go on for her. But if Shannon Sharpe is convicted in the court of public opinion, and I hope he's not, I'm rooting for him. I hope he's not. This can destroy podcast deals. This can destroy his access to white space, because black celebrities love access to white space, parties and neighborhoods and events. They love that. So he could potentially lose out on the status of being a celebrity in the white world. Shannon has a lot to lose publicly, more so than the money she's going to get. Now, I don't think she's getting $50 million. They might give her the $10 million, Art, that he originally promised her. She might get the 10. They might give her a little less. But here's the question Shannon Sharpe's lawyer got to answer, Art. Who do you want on Shannon Sharpe's jury? Think about this. Who do you want on Shannon Sharpe's jury? Do you want black women on that jury? I don't think so. Black women are tired of black men bunny hopping, and black women are not going to look kindly upon a 56-year-old dating and freaking out and completely sexually exploiting a 19-year-old. So I don't know if they want black women. I know they don't want no snow bunnies on that jury. If Shannon Sharpe gets a jury full of snow bunnies, he is cooked. I know they don't want no white men on that jury. Why? Because you ain't got no business touching our women, let alone touching our teenagers. Legal or not, white men ain't feeling it. White women ain't feeling it.
Yo, he's
black
good
women
for real.
ain't feeling it. That only leads who, Art? Black men. You know what the problem is? I think black men will be Shannon Sharpe's best option for the jury, for this civil suit. But you know what the problem with that is, Art? Guess what the problem with that is?
What's that?
In most states in America, you cannot serve on a jury if you have been convicted of a felony.
Bro, what? Bro, what? Yo, that's... Bro, he said, bro, Shannon Sharpe do not want no white women on the jury because, bro, they hot. You don't want no white men on the jury because they hot. All he has is the black men. And then guess what? Them niggas can't be on the jury because they got a felony. That nigga's stupid.
Think about that, Art. In
that
most
nigga's
states, and this is
stupid.
going to come up again when we talk about our young brother Carmelo Anthony later. But in most states, if you've been convicted, Art, of a felony, you cannot serve on a jury. And the only state that has no restrictions for ex-felons is the state of Maine. And Shannon
right,
Sharp
cool.
ain't being tried in Maine. He's being tried in white-ass Nevada. So Shannon's lawyer, Lanny Davis, has his hands full. Because who do you want on your jury? You ain't safe with black women. You ain't safe with white women. You ain't safe with white men. The only people who might show you some sympathy are black men. But what are the chances you're going to have any black men on your jury in Clark County, Nevada? And you know, Art, some people are saying Shannon doesn't deserve any compassion or support because Cat Williams warned him. They said Cat Williams warned you to your face on your show that he don't trust white women and he's scared of them. Cat Williams said, I'm scared of snow bunnies. He said because a snow bunny can destroy you in 2 weekends.
2 weekends.
He prophesied Shannon Sharp scandal, Art. Cat Williams said a snow bunny can destroy you in 2 weekends. Well, guess what, Art? Yesterday was Sunday. Tony Busby filed the civil suit last Sunday. So Cat Williams was right. But guess what? It didn't take 2 weeks. It took 1.
It took 1.
Art, it has only been 7 days. It feels like 7 years. They have completely upended Shannon Sharp's life in 7 days. And then Monique, our beautiful African sister Monique, shout out to Baltimore. Monique told Shannon to his face, what, Art? She said, stop messing with them 26-year-olds. Stop messing with them 36-year-olds. Get you a woman your age. Get you a woman who will make you them smothered turkey wings, bake you some pies, and rub your feet. She said, you ain't got no business, Shannon, messing with them 26 and 36-year-olds. Monique and Cat's prophecy came to reality.
Yo, y'all boys
I
hit that follow
told
button,
Shannon
man.
Sharp,
Hit
if
that
you
follow
keep
button
it
for
up,
y'all
they
boy,
gonna
man. If y'all
get you.
first time here.
I told him, if you keep bunny
Help
hopping,
your boy get to
they
affiliate, man.
are
We on our
going
way to
get you.
affiliate.
And now they got him. And to add to this, Art, some people are calling him a hypocrite because they said Shannon Sharp said that a man should date a woman who's half his age plus 7.
That's true. Shannon did
Half
say that shit.
his age plus 7. Well, he's 56. You know what that means?
So
half
that's
is
his
23.
Yep.
Plus 7 is 30.
Yeah.
By his own account,
He
Shannon
should-
Sharp should only be
should date
dating
a
women
30-year-old,
who are
yeah.
30 years of age or older. So how did you get a 19-year-old? And then when he had Donnell Rawlins on Club
that, yep.
Shannon, he criticized Donnell Rawlins for dating a 22, 23-year-old. He said, Donnell, why didn't you date her mother? Why did you date her?
Yeah.
Well, Shannon, your 19-year-old is a few years younger than Donnell's 22 or 23-year-old. So some people calling him a hypocrite. Look, I'm not dealing with all that. All I know is what he did is no worse than what Elvis Presley did, and they didn't hang Elvis Presley. Priscilla Presley, Art, said Elvis Presley had sex with her when she was 14 years old. So white America can't tell me nothing about Shannon Sharp. White America can't tell me nothing about Shannon Sharp. If Elvis Presley can sleep with a 14-year-old child, what's wrong with Shannon Sharp sleeping with a 19-year-old young lady? If Elvis Presley can sleep with a 14-year-old girl and still be considered a legend in the eyes of white America, one of their greatest heroes, if Elvis can do that with a 14-year-old girl, how can you cancel Shannon Sharp for being with a 19-year-old one? If you ain't holding a Roman Catholic Church accountable for those thousands of child rapes, how you going to hold Shannon Sharp accountable? If you're not going to hold Hugh Hefner accountable, he had 18, 19, and 20-year-olds all around the Playboy Mansion. No disrespect to him. By his own account, allegedly, he was being intimate with them, and he was much older than Shannon is. So why is it okay for Hugh Hefner to do it? Why is it okay for the priests of the Roman Catholic Church to do it? It's okay for Elvis Presley to do it, but it's a problem when Shannon Sharp does it. I got an issue with that. I'm going to say this, Art. as I wrap up on this topic. Black men better get our lust under control.
Damn. He said it.
Because yesterday or a few days ago, you know what happened, Art? We had the NFL draft. 230 some odd athletes, mostly black males, were drafted into the NFL. Those black male athletes, these rookies, better be paying attention to the Shannon Sharpe case. Because I believe the white power structure is going to conduct a massive snow bunny hunt against black male celebrities. They're going to take them all down one by one with the pale vagina.
That's funny.
If you are
Not the pale
addicted to the
vagina.
white woman's vagina, you will be destroyed.
Not the
Shannon
pale
Sharpe
vagina.
is showing you that right now. Look at Tiger Woods.
Not the
Tiger
pale
Woods'
vagina,
ex-wife, Art, was a nanny. Initially, the media reported that she won $1 billion settlement. They were incorrect. Shannon Sharpe's ex-wife, Tiger Woods' ex-wife got a $100 million settlement. But Art, she was a nanny. She was the extra help. How do you go from extra help to $100 million? And then you got black men running around calling black women gold diggers. Do you know of any 19-year-old black woman on OnlyFans who's suing a black male athlete for $50 million? I don't know of any. Do you know of any, Art?
Nah.
Any 19-year-old black OnlyFans who's suing a black male celebrity for $50 million? I don't know of nobody. Do you know of any black nanny who has got $100 million from suing a black former athlete? No. Black women are not making this money off of black men. White women are doing this. This financial takedown of black athletes is almost exclusively a snow bunny situation. Keep black women's names out your mouth. Black queens forever, snow bunnies never.
Yo, that was funny as fuck, bro. That was funny as fuck. Yo, that was funny as fuck. I can't even, that shit's too fucking funny, bro. That shit's funny as fuck, bro. I can't even, that shit was funny as fuck.
All right,
bro.
what's poppin', everybody? It's your boy Armand, and we're back with another video, okay? And it's time to get into some ass. Some things, if you know what I mean. This Shannon Sharpe stuff is just getting messier and messier and messier by the day, okay? So we took one day off and everything just started just going to, okay, literally. All right, so now what we know is, if you guys been following the story, you know that Shannon Sharpe is being sued by 21-year-old OnlyFans model Gabriella Zuniga.
Yo, you know what? I'm not even gonna even get into this shit, because if I get into this shit, bro, I'm gonna be up for another hour or so, bro, and I know I gotta be up for work, man. I gotta be up for work in the next 3 hours, bro. Yo, Daily Streamer here, man. Yo, tap in with your boy, man. Yo, Daily Streamer here. I strive to entertain, bro. I do this shit because I love this shit, bro. Bro, hit that follow button, man. Help your boy get to affiliate, bro. Which we're trying to get to affiliate, bro. Yo, I appreciate everybody that stopped into the stream, everybody that stopped into the chat, bro. I appreciate you guys, man. And as always, man,